Bellerophon rode Pegasus with urgency, the wind roaring past as they followed the trail of destruction left by the Chimera. "Damn that beast," he muttered, his jaw tight. The path was unmistakable. Deep gouges marred the earth where its claws had raked, and trees withered, poisoned by the venom dripping from the serpent head's fangs. Ahead lay Lycia, the very city that had sent its plea for help. As the hero approached, the screams of terrified citizens and the crash of collapsing buildings met his ears. Even Pegasus, divine and unyielding, seemed to sense the urgency, wings beating harder as the chaos of the city came into view. The temple of Athena, perched on the outskirts of Lycia, was ablaze. Flames licked the sky, consuming the sacred structure, and the shattered statue of the goddess lay broken on the ground. "All is lost," a soldier cried, his voice hoarse from the heat and ash. "Athena, forgive us for failing to protect your temple. We've tried everything. Arrows are useless. Nothing can pierce its hide." Another wave of flames erupted from within the temple, forcing the soldiers and civilians to retreat. Bellerophon circled the burning structure on Pegasus, scanning for the Chimera. The beast was inside, its monstrous presence palpable, but the temple's narrow confines meant dismounting Pegasus was his only option. Without the celestial steed, his odds of victory dwindled sharply. As he hovered, the crowd below noticed him. "Look, a winged horse. Surely the gods have sent their messenger. Please, save us." Bellerophon clenched his teeth, his heart heavy at the sight of the people covered in ash and burns. His resolve hardened as King Iobates, the ruler of Lycia, emerged from the chaos. "Bellerophon," the king shouted, his voice carrying over the din, "you are truly blessed by the gods. Your Majesty." Bellerophon dismounted Pegasus to meet him, landing amid the soldiers. King Iobates approached, his face lined with guilt and regret. "Bellerophon, I owe you the deepest apology." "What do you mean, my king?" The king held out a letter, his hands trembling. This is the letter I received from my son-in-law. It claimed you sought to dishonor his wife, but now I see the truth. I sent you to face the Chimera because I believed his lies. I was wrong." Bellerophon's jaw tightened as he read the damning words. His hands shook with suppressed rage, but his gaze softened at the king's remorse. "I see now that you are a hero, truly chosen by the gods," King Iobates said, bowing his head. "I beg you, save my city. Save my people." The sight of a king humbling himself stirred something deep within Bellerophon. Kneeling on one knee, he declared, "Your Majesty, I will fulfill my task. The gods have granted me Pegasus to slay this beast, and I will not fail." The crowd erupted in cheers and prayers as Bellerophon strode toward the burning temple, gripping his lead-weighted spear tightly. Inside, the temple was a hellish inferno. Flames roared like a living creature, and the air was thick with black smoke. Marble columns glowed with heat, and the acrid stench of venom mingled with burning stone. Bellerophon pushed deeper, his body already drenched in sweat. The Chimera emerged from the flames, its lion head snarling, its serpent tail hissing, and its goat head spewing fire. Blood-red eyes locked onto him, and the beast let out a deafening roar. Whoosh! A torrent of flames surged toward him. Bellerophon dove behind a column, narrowly avoiding incineration. The heat alone was unbearable, searing his skin and choking his lungs. He couldn't fight this beast from a distance. The flames would consume his spear before it reached its mark. The only way to kill it was to drive the lead-tipped spear directly into its mouth. But that meant facing the Chimera head-on. As he crouched behind the column, Bellerophon's thoughts raced. Memories of his ambitions to become a hero, to earn the gods' favor, and to achieve feats worthy of immortality flooded his mind. He recalled the shame of his past. Exiled for accidentally killing his brother, denied the chance to train in Thebes, and now, falsely accused of betrayal. This was his moment to rise above it all. The Chimera's footsteps grew louder, its fiery breath scorching the air as it hunted him. Bellerophon tightened his grip on the spear. He could feel his fear clawing at him, But another voice within him rose louder, the voice of resolve. "I will prove myself, even without Thebes," he whispered. "This is my fate." With a sudden burst of courage, Bellerophon leapt from behind the column and charged. The Chimera roared and unleashed a torrent of fire, but he didn't falter. Flames engulfed him, the intense heat melting his skin and sapping his strength, but he pressed forward. "I am Bellerophon," he roared, "and I will slay you." His vision blurred, his body screamed in agony, and the flames tore at his flesh. But with one final surge of strength, he thrust the spear into the Chimera's gaping maw. The lead tip melted in the flames, flowing into the beast's stomach. The Chimera let out an earth-shaking roar before collapsing, its body writhing in death throes as the molten lead consumed it from within. When the flames finally subsided, the soldiers cautiously entered the temple. What they found stopped them in their tracks. The Chimera lay dead, the spear still lodged in its mouth. Beside it, the charred remains of Bellerophon stood frozen in place, the blackened figure still gripping the weapon that had slain the beast. The soldiers fell silent, their faces etched with awe and sorrow. "He never let go of the spear," one whispered. "The molten lead, it killed the Chimera," another added. King Iobates entered, his expression heavy as he gazed upon the scene. "A hero, no, a savior," he said softly. "Erect a statue of Bellerophon. Let his name be remembered forever." Pegasus, unnoticed until now, stepped forward, letting out a mournful cry. The divine steed lowered its head, as if paying its final respects to its fallen master. And so Bellerophon, who sought to rise above his past and prove himself a hero, was immortalized not in life but in death. His sacrifice saved Lycia, and his name would echo through eternity. "May he find peace in the underworld," King Iobates murmured. "May the gods honor his bravery." During the hero's task to slay the Chimera, Gaia intervened, orchestrating destruction and tragedy. The temple of Athena burned, and Bellerophon met his end along with the beast. Though Gaia could not alter the fate decreed by the Moirai, that Bellerophon would triumph over the Chimera, she had found a way to twist the path leading to that victory, as if mocking our efforts to guide destiny. "Did you see that, Lady Lethe?" I asked, my voice heavy with concern. "Yes," Lethe replied, her tone solemn. "Gaia wields a prophetic power that rivals even that of Prometheus." The implications were troubling. Even if we nurtured a hero strong enough to defeat the Gigantes and secure victory, it might come at an unbearable cost. A Pyrrhic victory that could leave us vulnerable to new horrors. Gaia, the primordial goddess of the earth, was a force beyond comprehension. She could summon new terrors to replace the Gigantes, release the Titans, or even tear the world apart in her vengeance. We needed more preparation, more foresight. Gaia belonged to the Protogenoi, the primordial gods birthed from chaos itself. Among them were Lord Erebus, god of darkness, Lady Nyx, goddess of night, and Lord Tartarus, god of the abyss. Yet none of them interfered in mortal affairs. Erebus and Nyx had withdrawn into obscurity, and Tartarus remained an immovable force, detached from all struggles. The burden of opposing Gaia fell on the shoulders of the Olympians, and by extension, the underworld. As I pondered these grim realities, Lady Lethe broke the silence. "Hades," she began, her voice hesitant. "Yes, what is it?" I asked, looking up from my thoughts. "Bellerophon will soon arrive in the underworld. Will you grant him a reward for his sacrifice?" Thanatos had already dispatched a herald to escort the fallen hero. Despite the stain of his brother's accidental death, Bellerophon had slain the Chimera at the cost of his own life. Such a deed deserved acknowledgement. I summoned a herald and issued my command. "When the hero who slew the Chimera arrives, bring him to me." The herald bowed. "As you wish, Lord Hades." Not long after, Bellerophon was brought to the audience chamber. Having regained his memories through Lady Mnemosyne's power, he knelt before me, his face etched with a mix of regret and resignation. Why has the Lord of the Underworld summoned me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You accomplished a great feat," I said, my voice steady. "As a mortal, You slew the Chimera, offspring of Typhon. Yet in the mortal world, you received no fitting reward. I aim to rectify that. Bellerophon's eyes widened in disbelief. A reward? Yes. Tell me, hero, what is it you desire? Speak, and I shall determine what is fitting for your achievement. His response took me by surprise. In that case, he said, lifting his head, his eyes alight with fervor, I wish to become a god, like you, Lord Pluto, to ascend to Olympus and dwell among the immortals. The boldness of his request momentarily rendered the chamber silent. Even Lethe seemed caught off guard. A god? I repeated, leaning forward slightly. You wish to ascend to Olympus? Yes, he exclaimed, his voice brimming with passion. To join the gods above the clouds. To live forever. I've always dreamed of becoming one of you. His ambition was clear, but his understanding of divinity was naive. I raised a hand to quiet him and spoke calmly. Do you understand what it truly means to be a god? He blinked, caught off guard by my question. Isn't it to be eternal? Perfect. Perfect? I echoed, a faint smile tugging at my lips. No god is perfect. We have our duties, our burdens. Immortality is not freedom. It is responsibility. He hesitated, but his resolve did not falter. Even so, I wish to ascend. My actions should prove I am worthy. I considered his words carefully. Mortals had ascended before, Dionysus, who spread the gift of wine, and Medusa, who was wronged beyond measure. Yet Bellerophon's case was different. His record bore stains, and his accomplishments, while noble, lacked the following or divine backing to warrant ascension. Still, his bravery was undeniable. Very well, I said at last. If you wish to become a god, you must first understand what it entails. Spend 100 days in the underworld, performing the duties of a minor god. At the end of this trial, if your desire remains unchanged, I will speak to Olympus on your behalf. His eyes lit up, and he bowed deeply. Thank you, Lord Pluto. I will prove myself worthy. After Bellerophon left, his excitement palpable, I turned to Lady Lethe, who was watching him with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Hades, she said, may we assign him to assist with the River of Forgetfulness? The dead have been resistant lately. My initial plan, I replied, is to have him assist Eros in his duties with the guilty. He will learn the harsh realities of divine responsibility soon enough. Lethe's shoulders slumped slightly, disappointment flickering across her face. I couldn't help but smile faintly. You've helped me greatly, Lethe, I said, gently brushing a strand of her silver hair. Her reaction was immediate. She flinched, her cheeks flushing as she stammered. Hades, what are you? Her sudden shyness amused me. Lethe, who had always approached me with ease, was flustered for the first time. Please continue to support me, as you always have, I said softly. She nodded hastily, her face still bright red, and practically fled the chamber. The sound of her running into the door echoed behind her. I sighed, already making a mental note to repair the debt. Meanwhile, Bellerophon was led to his trial in the underworld. The air grew heavier as he approached his assigned station, a realm where sinners atone for their crimes in fire and torment. This is my task, he asked, his voice shaky as he beheld the writhing souls. Yes, said his guide. Your role is to assist Lord Eros. Bring him arrows when he requires them. Eros. Bellerophon looked up in confusion as the god of love, now the god of punishment, rained arrows upon the guilty. Hey, mortal! Eros shouted. Stop gawking and bring me those arrows. As Bellerophon scrambled to obey, he couldn't help but wonder, was this truly the path to becoming a god? And why did even love seem so harsh here in the underworld?
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Bellerophon, tasked with experiencing the duties of a lesser deity, followed the suggestion of Hades, the king of the underworld. After slaying Typhon's offspring in the living world and boldly challenging the gods before the king of the underworld. Hey, hurry up and bring me the arrows. Why is Lord Hades using such a sluggish mortal? Uh, I'm sorry. His mind was about to snap. The winged god, Eros, showered arrows at the sinners at a speed so fast they couldn't even be seen. The god of love scowled and kept firing arrows nonstop. The many quivers of arrows placed beside him were quickly emptied. It naturally fell to Bellerophon, who carried these quivers, to be scolded by Eros. If the sinners get a break because of you, the overseers will report it to Lord Hades. Whack! I'm sorry, Eros, irritated, struck Bellerophon's head with his bow. But Bellerophon dared not retaliate. First of all, the fact that Eros, who had just hit him, was continuing to shoot arrows without even looking his way was one thing. Still, the human is adjusting quite well, considering he hasn't been here long. He did say he wanted to experience the work of a lesser deity. I should report well to Lord Hades about this. If he stays here, it might lessen our workload. Some lesser deities who were overseeing or managing something from a distance were giving favorable evaluations of him. The fact that this was not a punishment or a malicious prank shook Bellerophon to his core. Getting yelled at by higher gods and dealing with nonstop labor all day. And this wasn't something unusual. It was the normal workload for a lesser deity. Weren't gods supposed to leisurely help mortals from time to time? Fwoosh thud. Arg, please have mercy. Although the underworld was a lot harsher compared to other places, and there were difficult tasks like torturing major sinners, Bellerophon, who was experiencing the underworld for the first time, didn't notice this. How much time had passed like this? Hey, human, it's my turn now. Shift change? A minor god with two small horns on his forehead and a red body approached him. With words of thanks, Bellerophon collapsed onto the ground. Even if they were deceased souls, mental exhaustion was inevitable, especially if he had to hear arrow-sharp complaints periodically. You did well. I will make sure to speak highly of you to Lord Hades. About what? You said you wanted to experience the work of lesser deities to become one of us, right? If you become a god, you'd be pretty reliable. Hearing the minor god, who nodded in satisfaction toward him, Bellerophon thought blankly. No, even if gods weren't just lazing about, there had to be some perks, surely? I've heard gods enjoy nectar and ambrosia. Could I perhaps see it too? Oh, now that I think of it, since you're experiencing the work of a lesser deity, you should also try the food. Follow me. I get to try the food of the gods. Bellerophon's face lit up. To think I'd get to taste the food of the gods. Truly, the king of the underworld is merciful. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The minor god led Bellerophon to a far-off place. A massive structure, like the castles built by mortals in the living world. Where is this place? My lord, where are we? This is the 1,253rd warehouse of the underworld. And this is the third largest warehouse where we store nectar and ambrosia. Bellerophon was busy looking around, bewildered. The castle made of black bricks and unknown black stone. The souls busily moving about, carrying something. After passing the strict inspections of the spirits guarding the area, there were literal mountains of nectar and ambrosia piled up. Yet despite this, everything was systematically organized. The king of the underworld is also the god of wealth. For him to have thousands of warehouses like this. While he was lost in thought, the minor god handed him something. Here, this is ambrosia and nectar. Consider it an honor and eat, human. Oh, thank you. Much. The ambrosia and nectar he tasted for the first time in his life were truly heavenly. Truly food fit for gods. So ecstatic that no earthly food could compare, even to the pleasures of embracing a lover. Okay, now that you've eaten and drunk your fill, get up. What are you staring at? Part of a lesser deity's duty is also managing nectar and ambrosia. Bellerophon started working again. Nectar and ambrosia may render mortals immortal while consumed, but it's something a human normally cannot even touch, let alone see. I am truly grateful to Lord Pluto, though you ate and drank, if you even think of harboring any wrong thoughts. The minor god's face twisted grotesquely. No matter how lowly a god managing the underworld's chores may be, a god is still a god. The eerie aura swirled around Bellerophon, and horrifying hallucinations overwhelmed him. The only reason he didn't collapse in a faint then, and there was because he was a hero who hadn't backed down from the Chimera. Seeing Bellerophon's face turn pale, the minor god shrugged as if nothing had happened. Well, you seem like a pretty diligent human, so I don't think that will be a concern, right? Of course. Bellerophon began taking ambrosia out of numerous crates, transporting and stacking them according to orders. Next, he carefully handled the bottles of nectar to ensure they wouldn't break, organizing them as directed. He also counted the number of foods in the warehouse and recorded them on parchment. Of course, this was possible thanks to the help of the minor deity beside him, who assisted him skillfully. But wasn't this sort of trivial task something that warehouse keepers, scribes, or laborers would do? Why should a god have to do such work? After being absorbed in the task for quite some time, he finally got a chance to rest. Then he began to ask the question he'd been curious about all along. Why did gods have to do work that seemed fit for mere servants? You've worked hard. As expected of someone from a heroic background, you're quite strong. But why do gods do this sort of work? How could we leave such an important task to mortals? If it were ordinary treasures or gold, maybe, but the task of managing divine food? The minor deity showed even more confusion in response to Bellerophon's question. But still, for the great gods to continuously engage in such menial labor. Do you think souls could do this kind of work for long? It's only because we are immortal that we can endure it. Gods are unchanging not only in body, but also in spirit. If an ordinary human lived for thousands of years, they would probably go insane. But because the gods possess immortality and divine power, they can maintain their mental stability. Elder gods, who have lived for tens of thousands of years, do not always display solemnity. At times, they are more innocent than a child, and at other times, they seem as conservative as old men. Sometimes, they act more on emotion than reason, and more on desire than duty. But this, too, is a manifestation of divine power to maintain mental stability. The proof of being a god might not be the great power or the eternal, undying body, but rather an unyielding spirit. But don't worry too much. Doing a little work as a god won't break your body or spirit. This is just a little. Bellerophon began to seriously reconsider becoming a god. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. About 30 days had passed since Bellerophon left the audience hall. To be honest, I had nearly forgotten about him, until a messenger came to deliver news of Bellerophon. Lord Hades, the hero who killed the Chimera, wishes to see you again. Bring him in. He approached me unsteadily, his eyes hollow and his face vacant. The souls of the dead no longer experience fatigue like they did in life. But that appearance, the hero, who had collapsed before the throne, spoke in a weak voice. I have realized that the position of a god is far beyond my reach, O Lord of the underworld. So, you want to give up? Yes. Please assign me something else. I waved my hand and picked out one of the parchments piled to the side. The report detailing his supervision floated over naturally. Everyone praises you highly. They say, he is worthy of becoming a lesser deity. What? How could I? With an evaluation like this, even Zeus would consider you a capable mortal. The parchment contained nothing but good evaluations. Uncommonly diligent for a mortal, persistent, probably due to being a hero, and request to send him again. But, the work the gods do is... Did you think it was no big deal? That's not it. It's just... The blue-faced Bellerophon tried to make excuses, but it all came down to not wanting to work too much. Still, it was true that I intended for him to experience the duties of a god. Bellerophon was not the only mortal who thought like that. I nodded appropriately and looked at him. All right, then, I wish to help the underworld even without becoming a god. Please assign me another task. Don't you want a reward for slaying the Chimera? No. Just forgive my rudeness. The hero trembled, pressing his forehead to the ground. He must think he insulted the divine right in front of me. Even if I show that I don't particularly care, he won't be reassured. Greek gods are quite capricious, after all. I forgive your routine. SS. Then, how about sharing your experiences with future generations? I will do anything you command. You can quit whenever you want. There's no need to be overly burdened. The heroes from Thebes. Chiron did mention needing an instructor for training. If he's the hero who killed the Chimera, he would be more than sufficient. Still, I do feel a bit sorry for making a hero who should be resting continue to work. Perhaps I should arrange for him to reconcile with the brother he accidentally killed. The underworld was peaceful today, as usual. There wasn't much time left until the return of the goddess of spring, who had gone to the world of the living. Persephone also had deep feelings for me. As my thoughts flowed to the goddess of spring, Demeter naturally came to mind. I don't know if you two will eventually marry, but if that day comes, please take good care of Kore. Demeter had asked me to take care of her daughter. Though she's my niece, it seems I still don't have the luxury to think about Persephone, especially when the goddess approaching me now, with a resolute look, is Lethe. Hades, come to the mortal realm with me. What? I stopped my thoughts and looked at her, her silver hair flowing behind her. The goddess of forgetfulness, who seemed to be in an especially determined mood, was clenching her fist as if heading into battle. Oh wait, that's not it. There's a festival being held in Olympia to honor Zeus. I thought it would be nice if we went out together, maybe to get a sense of the mortal's condition. The festival held in Olympia is a part of the rituals dedicated to Zeus, the highest god. It takes place once every 4 years and lasts for 5 days, with many gods watching the festivities. During the Olympia festival, all wars or conflicts are prohibited, and even Ares ceases his battles. If there are any mortals who disobey this rule, they will face appropriate divine punishment. Since it is a ritual offered to Zeus by the mortals, it's only natural. My apologies. I should have suggested it first. I will prepare and head out shortly. What? Hades suggesting it first? I've been wanting to spend time with you, goddess. I approached the frozen goddess of forgetfulness, who seemed utterly shocked, as if she hadn't expected this. Looking straight into her blue eyes, filled with curiosity, bewilderment, and anticipation, I placed my hand on her shoulder. I realize I've been quite neglectful, but I intend to change that now. Oh, really? Could I learn what love is just a little more through this experience? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. We emerged into the mortal world and headed toward Olympia, where the festival dedicated to Zeus was being held. This place is completely within Zeus's domain, so I should pay my respects since I'm passing through. Zeus wouldn't appreciate it if a disguised god wandered around the city unnoticed. We should first head to the Temple of Zeus. Are you planning to chat with him since we're already here? Concealing ourselves from the mortal's sight, we entered the interior of Zeus's temple. As expected of the temple of the highest god, Zeus, it was a massive building filled with countless people. How would it compare to my temple in Thebes, considering that it's nearly time for the Olympia festival, which draws many tourists, merchants, and athletes? O great Lord of the sky, may your grace. The cows here are healthy ones that I raise well. I wish to donate them to the Temple of Zeus, a sculpture of Zeus's symbol, the eagle. We passed the long lines, the mortal guards, and the priests, moving further inside, past the devotees washing their hands and moving censers, until we came out into a large area. Finally, the colossal statue of Zeus revealed itself. The statue of Zeus, seated on a throne and holding a lightning bolt in one hand, was as immense as if it were made of dozens of people combined. Past the marble columns on either side, we approached the statue of Zeus. The wooden structure was covered with ivory and gold, with the enormous throne made of cedar and gold. The followers of Zeus did a decent job representing the throne on Olympus. With a soft touch, I placed my hand on the throne of the statue and focused my mind. This is one of the places where Zeus's power is most strongly felt, so this method of communication will suffice. Zeus, this voice. Brother Hades, what brings you to my temple in Olympia? I've come out for a bit to watch the festival the mortals are holding in your honor. Ah, I see. I will tell my priests to give you a proper welcome. No, that won't be necessary. I plan to quietly observe and then return. After chatting with Zeus for a bit, I withdrew my hand from the throne. With no need to worry about the threat of the Gigantes, Zeus said he would attend the festival himself this time. He also mentioned Persephone. Though she is his daughter, he asked me to take good care of her, even asking when the wedding would be. He also told me that Demeter had been walking around Olympus looking less stern lately, among other bits of news. It was probably because it had been a while since we'd had a conversation, and Zeus seemed to have been quite idle recently. At that moment, the goddess Lethe, who had been linking arms with me, called out. Was it because of that mortal who had been watching us curiously for some time? White hair, a wooden staff, and a censer in hand. A mortal who looked like he wouldn't have much time left before coming to the underworld. But more importantly, he was one of Zeus's favorite high priests. Tap, by any chance, are you a G-god? Sure. Thanks to Zeus's blessing, the old man, who clearly sensed something was amiss, spoke. Not wanting things to get noisy, I brought my finger to my lips and the priest hastily nodded. I nodded back and concealed myself again. In the old man's eyes, it would seem as if the goddess Lethe and I had simply disappeared. Will there be talk about another god visiting the temple of Zeus again? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Thump, 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 thump. Greetings, everyone. I am the one leading this festival. The goddess Lethe and I were inside a large, circular arena. More precisely, we were seated in one of the spectator stands of the stadium where the Olympia festival was being held. First, we will conduct a ritual to honor the great god Zeus. The offerings for Olympus this time are over 100 lambs, and the circular stadium was packed with people, and the announcer was speaking without rest. The goddess Lethe and I watched while nibbling on a pie filled with nuts and some dried fruits. The goddess Lethe, munching on a dried fruit, seemed to be dissatisfied with something. Perhaps it was because the surroundings were too noisy. Goddess, don't hand it over like that. Pardon? What do you mean? Ah. As I handed her a piece of cheese, the goddess of forgetfulness closed her eyes and opened her mouth. Like a baby bird receiving food, she waited so I placed the cheese in her mouth. But it might be better if she released my finger after eating the cheese, wouldn't it? Hades, you too, ah. The goddess, who had eaten the cheese, opened her mouth slightly, as if not quite done, then handed me a piece of pie. Though her face turned red and her hand trembled, her eyes remained unfocused. The goddess of forgetfulness, ruler of one of the 5 rivers that wind through the underworld, and granddaughter of Nyx, seldom showed much emotion. That's just how the power of forgetfulness works. Desperate sorrow, fierce rage, even love that seemed eternal. Once the memories containing all those emotions are lost, they fade away like an extinguished fire. Perhaps that's why the emotions were faint on the face of the goddess of forgetfulness. What are you doing? Hurry, Adat. But that's only on the surface. Having spent so long with her, I've come to realize that she has the heart of a young maiden, almost like spring itself. She treats everyone equally with her vacant tone and expressionless words. When did I realize that she was a bit different with me? Was it when we gods held dominion over the world, and I still bowed my head to greet her? Or was it because, unlike my unruly brothers, I didn't covet the goddesses? Or was it the time I first handed down a verdict to a human involved with a god, offering them a fair trial? Or perhaps, ugh, my arm hurts. I remember when we first met. It was not long after I had become the ruler of the underworld. Back then, I closed my eyes and recalled the past for a moment. A very old memory. I was inspecting the 5 rivers that surrounded the underworld. Having won the war against the Titans, I needed to become familiar with the realm I was to rule. It was then that I met a goddess at the river of forgetfulness. A silver-haired goddess sitting by the riverside, her head buried in her knees. As I approached her, I could sense the power of forgetfulness radiating out from her. Greetings. I am Hades. By any chance, are you the goddess of forgetfulness? Please leave. Though our first encounter didn't go well, my continued visits allowed me to have many conversations with her. creatures that would forget even her existence if left alone. The forgetfulness that devours the history of mortals. Limos, the goddess of hunger, would drive every creature to starvation just by her presence. Though gods could resist it, it would continually drain their energy. Similarly, the goddess of forgetfulness evoked fear in mortals and was not particularly welcomed among immortals. To be more precise, it seemed that she herself was caught in despair. Still, when I kept visiting, she responded, "Are we gods not capable of resisting the power of forgetfulness? Perhaps it would be better for you to stay in the underworld. Why do you keep doing this?" "Because I am troubled seeing you always alone here. A busy ruler like you visiting me like this." What did I say then? Oh, I just spoke frankly out of frustration, didn't I? This is part of my duty. What? Helping a goddess saddened by her shunned power is a duty that befits the ruler of the underworld. For the first time, she lifted her head and showed a hint of emotion. No living being likes forgetfulness. Just leave me alone. I like you. What did you say? Since that day, the goddess of forgetfulness has resided in the fortress of the underworld. Returning to the present, I quietly looked at the goddess Lethe. I could tell that my feelings were reflected in the smile that naturally appeared on my face. Why are you smiling, Hades? I could also see that her face, too, seemed to brighten just a little. A significant change in expression compared to before. Perhaps thanks to having worked in the underworld for so long? No, that's not it. Let's not avoid it. I know why she behaves this way. Even Aphrodite would find it hard to define. It must be because of love. I just smile when I look at you, goddess. Ugh, eat this too. Today is the second day of the Olympic festival dedicated to Zeus. It's a day of running, javelin throwing, chariot races, and more. Like yesterday, I plan to sit in the stadium with goddess Lethe and watch the events. While climbing the stone steps and looking for a place to sit, I overhear the voices of nearby humans. Was running the first event? Last time's winner was... But won't the child of a god win again, anyways? It's hard for mere mortals to match the heroes, especially those with Olympian blood. Still, we mortals have our own strength. Anyone, whether demigod or human, can participate in the Olympic festival dedicated to Zeus. However, the gap between those with even a fraction of divine blood and ordinary mortals is not easily bridged. The mere fact of having divine blood grants strength, stamina, and perhaps even unique abilities. Listening to the people passing by, goddess Lethe spoke up. It seems the humans are feeling deprived. It's understandable if they lack divine heritage. The difference is there from birth. Then wouldn't a demigod, a descendant of the 12 Olympian, inevitably win these events? Not necessarily. Even among demigods, there's a noticeable difference in abilities depending on how closely they're related to higher-ranking gods. But that doesn't mean the outcome of these competitions is predetermined. The 16th contestant is a devoted follower of Artemis, the goddess of the moon. We found a decent spot and listened to the announcer. It seemed the race was about to start as the athletes got into position and the crowd quieted down. Boom! Thud! Thud thud! Hoo-hoo! Give it your all, Miracles. Do you know how many drachmas I bet on this? Run faster. With the sound of the drum, all the contestants took off. Young Greek men's bare feet powerfully pushed off the ground as they sprinted. Lineage certainly plays a big role, but there have been cases where personal effort overturned that. I thought examples of bridging that kind of inherent gap were extremely rare. The world is inherently unfair. Differences in heritage, talent, innate abilities, and social standing are not easily overcome by anyone. And the winner is Diidos. The crown of victory shall be bestowed upon you. Wow! A demigod? Lost to a human? I always knew he was something special since he ran around outside the city every day. So there's someone faster than Hermes' descendant. But sometimes there are humans who manage to overcome such differences. The one who won the race against many demigods must be one of those few. Wow! Truly impressive. I think I see the qualities of a hero in him. If he comes to Thebes, he would certainly be worth nurturing in the underworld. A terracotta amphora depicting the running contest was filled with olive oil. A laurel wreath, made of olive branches and laurel leaves, was placed on the winner's forehead. Goddess Lethe, watching the winner smile widely as he lifted the amphora, spoke. A hero. Speaking of which, what happened to the brother Bellerophon accidentally killed? His resentment seems to have softened a lot, as he expressed a desire to meet Bellerophon. After arriving in the underworld, Bellerophon accepted the settlement I proposed. If his brother wished, he would meet him personally to apologize. Bellerophon, when he finally met his brother in the underworld, knelt down and apologized. Fortunately, the victim accepted the apology. As we were thinking about Bellerophon's story, a middle-aged man sitting next to us spoke up. Hey, just a moment. Excuse me, but are you two married by any chance? Is he talking to us? Yes, indeed. You two seem quite close, but if she's already married. He looked at Goddess Lethe suspiciously. Married women were prohibited from attending or even watching the male-only Olympic festival. However, virgins were allowed to watch as they were expected to understand the world of men. I could just say that the goddess and I aren't married, and that would solve everything. But then, Goddess Lethe, with a shy expression, said something quite bold. Yes, we're married. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What did you say? Hey, guards! A married woman is... The man, flustered by Lethe proudly claiming herself as a married woman, tried to call for the guards. But soon, he lost his memory for a moment and stood there dazed. Goddess Lethe glanced at me, almost gauging my reaction. Perhaps it was because she said we were married. Goddess, why? Why? You don't want to marry me? Hades? I swallowed the words I was about to say. We aren't married yet, nor are we even in a relationship, but I'm not so foolish as to not understand what she wants to hear. Perhaps, at this moment, I can give her the answer she wants. Moo! HM? Say it louder. Cheering voices for the athletes preparing for the next event. People laughing and chatting. Thunder rumbling. Proof that Zeus was watching the games from the sky with satisfaction. Despite all of that, the only thing I could hear was the goddess's question. She seemed to have gathered considerable courage just to ask, as her small fingers fidgeted. Red lips moving slightly. Trembling eyes. Hades! Just like Styx. Instead of saying anything, I moved closer to where she was sitting. She flinched as my face neared, but she didn't look away. I used a glamour to conceal us, so no one else could see. Not even most of the Olympian gods would be able to see through it. This wasn't the first time I'd done this. Skillfully, I moved my hand to gently grasp the back of her head and pulled her towards me. I hope this conveys my answer to her. Smooch. This is the second time. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Helios had already passed with his sun chariot, and darkness had settled over Olympia. In the quiet nighttime streets, I walked arm in arm with Goddess Lethe. Step, step, maybe because of that brief kiss from earlier. I found myself constantly aware of the soft touch of her arm entwined with mine. Not only had she entwined her arm with mine, but now the beautiful goddess rested her head on my shoulder. This ticklish feeling in my chest is far from unpleasant. After walking around for a while and looking at the surroundings, something caught my attention with my divine senses. Like a knife, blood on my body. A groaning sound came from inside a brick house. It seemed to be an elderly man, perhaps a former soldier, plagued by a terrible nightmare. He still hadn't escaped the battlefield, even with his eyes closed and cold sweat on his brow. Normally, such things would be under Morpheus's jurisdiction, but helping ease his suffering would be fitting for the goddess beside me as well. Perhaps realizing the same thing, Goddess Lethe stopped walking and looked at me. I'll be right back. I nodded at her, meeting her eyes, and she vanished. Soon, the power of forgetfulness enveloped the house, leaving only the sound of his soft breathing. The pain of war would gradually become a faint memory. Goddess Lethe returned quickly, a slight smile on her lips. The goddess who once grieved over her unwelcome role has changed so much. You brought a small bit of peace. I just don't like seeing humans suffer from being bound by memories of the past. That's what forgetting is. While people may resist at touching precious or important memories, they hope for the goddess's blessing on painful tormenting memories. It's much like death. As mortals age and draw nearer to death, they're more likely to become my followers. Meanwhile, the young, who are far from death, praise Ares, Apollo, or Zeus. Spending the day with Hades after so long, and seeing interesting things, we had seen enough of the Olympic festival which the humans offered to Zeus. I couldn't leave the underworld unattended for too long, so it was about time to return. I raised my hand and pointed to a tall hill. How about we go up there one last time? And so, I climbed the hill with the goddess of forgetfulness. Insects chirped all around, and beautiful fireflies flitted about. Chirp, chirp. The place was dark and filled with shadows. I stood at the top of the hill and looked down. The night view of Olympia, a great city and sanctuary, spread out before us. And then, with her silver hair fluttering in the strong wind, the goddess spoke. Her gaze fixed on the city, not on me, yet somehow it felt like she was looking right at me. Hades? Yes, my lady? One day, won't the countless mortals living in that city also fully accept my blessing? There's no god whose mind won't eventually receive the blessing of forgetfulness. Memories of the distant past grow hazy and are sometimes forgotten in the recesses of the mind. Mortals forget even more easily. Even memories of just yesterday can be partially forgotten by humans. As the goddess of forgetfulness, I must bestow my blessing on everyone, little by little. Neither Zeus nor I were exceptions. Even for you, Lady Lethe, as the goddess of love falls in love, so does Goddess Lethe fall into the depths of forgetfulness. Lethe smiled faintly again as she looked my way. But today's memories, I don't want them to fade. I feel the same. Would you help make sure I don't forget today? Yearning filled her eyes, only to soon vanish behind her eyelids. I also approached her and slowly closed my eyes, turning my head slightly to the side, and at the same time, embracing her soft figure. Our lips touched. With pleasure, I parted my lips slightly and nudged her lips with my tongue. A small gap formed as the two of us became connected through that opening. My first thought was that it was sweet and warm. At the same time, the thought that brushed my mind was that I wanted to continue this tenderness. The intimate parts inside tangled together, yet it didn't feel unpleasant at all. Rather, I had an even stronger desire to be closer. My wandering hands fumbled aimlessly until I regained my senses and pulled away. A long silver thread formed between us before disappearing. The sweet taste of peach lingered in my mouth. Even if forgetfulness should envelop me with the passing of time, this moment I will never forget. Recently, Gaia has been unusually quiet. Could it be because the aspiring heroes who had gathered in Thebes returned to the mortal world after finishing their training, slaying monsters along the way? Maybe the reason for giving those heroes items imbued with Dionysus's power was to keep them from falling into Gaia's madness. Chiron also seemed conscious of it and paid a lot of attention to their mental training. Hades, Demeter, and Persephone are at the entrance to the underworld. Has Persephone's time to visit already come? Let them in. A messenger approached and reported that Persephone's time to come to the underworld had arrived. After a short wait, the door to the audience chamber opened, and the two goddesses entered. The stern-looking Demeter and the golden-haired girl running toward me. Uncle Hades, I missed you. She hugged me. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should avoid her, but seeing Demeter's gaze, I just hugged her back. Seeing me accepting her daughter, her expression softened again. After all that fuss in the past, oh, you're hugging me more readily now? It's been a while, Persephone. All right, step aside for a moment. I gently set her down beside me as she smiled brightly and turned my gaze to Demeter. The goddess of the earth crossed her arms, and upon making eye contact with me, finally spoke. Hades, you must have received word from Olympus. If you're talking about the letter saying Hephaestus caused some trouble and should be sent to the underworld for a while, then yes, I took out the letter, handwritten by Zeus, that had been sent to the underworld. Anyone could tell it was written in anger, given the messy handwriting. Brother Hades, did you mention being very busy in the underworld? Hephaestus caused great trouble, and I'd like him to be kept in the underworld for a while. Though I had no idea what happened, an extra hand in the busy underworld was welcome. I readily sent a reply to Olympus agreeing to the request, but, so, Demeter, is this why you came all the way down to the underworld in person? It's because of the incident. That wretch tried to rape Athena, failed, and got Gaia pregnant. What nonsense are you spouting, Demeter? What's this now? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The story Demeter told me went as follows. Athena had visited Hephaestus's forge in the Olympian palace. The goddess of wisdom went to ask the god of smithing to make her some high-quality weapons. She had been furious recently after her temple was attacked by a chimera. But then, Hephaestus, could you perhaps make me a shield and a spear? Huff, Athena. Hephaestus, abandoned by Aphrodite and frustrated from his solitude, attempted to rape Athena upon seeing her beauty. However, Athena is not only the goddess of wisdom, but also a goddess of war. Ugh! What? Ugh! Boom! Athena lifted Hephaestus and threw him. But from the impact, Hephaestus's semen splashed onto Athena's thigh, and she wiped it off and discarded it onto the earth. So, Gaia, the Earth Mother, gave birth to Hephaestus's child, and Athena is temporarily taking care of that child. Yes, exactly. And that wretch, just like his father, even attempted to violate a virgin goddess. It's likely not the attempted rape of Athena that has Zeus in such a rage and sending Hephaestus to the underworld. We are in conflict with Gaia, the Earth Mother, at the moment. Who knows what she might do now that she's suddenly given birth to her great-great-grandson's child? A needless provocation, or rather insult, to a powerful adversary. An act of violation? Although not exactly an enemy, Gaia is still the grandmother of both Demeter and me, which is why we'd used honorifics for her. And now, she's had a child with my nephew, Hephaestus. So you understand why I came all the way here, don't you? If Hephaestus comes down to the underworld, yeah, he won't be able to go near Persephone. Thanks to Demeter speaking up, I was able to pull myself away from my spiraling thoughts. She came to ask me to keep the god of smithing away from her daughter, as well as to escort Persephone. Wait a minute. If Gaia got pregnant from Hephaestus's semen splashing on the earth, don't we also have an earth goddess? Like Demeter right in front of me. I glanced at Demeter's belly, but she didn't look pregnant at all. Still, it'd be better to hear it from her directly, just in case. But aren't you also an earth goddess? Are you? Art, I didn't fully possess the authority over the earth. Do you really need me to say that out loud? I apologize. Demeter blushed furiously and huffed for a while before leaving the underworld. Persephone, who learned the truth about her cousin, the god of smithing, approached me with a mischievous look. She climbed gently onto my lap, where I sat on my throne. Compared to Aphrodite, her attempt is rather clumsy. Lord Hades, if Lady Gaia is having Uncle Hephaestus's child, then it's fine for us too, isn't it? Your mother should see you right now. Why does she call Hephaestus uncle? He's her half-brother or cousin. Ugh, my head hurts just thinking about it. Haven't you missed me? I think of you every day, Lord Hades. Why have you dropped the uncle now, niece? And please, don't rub yourself against my arm like that. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Persephone was sent to her chambers, and after some time, two gods visited the underworld. Uncle Hades, it's been a while since I last saw you. Greetings. One of them was Hephaestus, a muscular god whose wrists were bound, looking rather downcast, while the other was the moon goddess, Artemis, who appeared to be making sure he didn't try to run away. Artemis was periodically glaring at Hephaestus with clear disdain. It seemed that the incident had spread throughout Olympus, and most of the gods probably knew about it. I've heard what happened. Artemis, you may now return. Did Zeus have a message for me? Artemis' sharp voice filled the audience hall, her face stern. No wonder Athena, who had sworn chastity by the river Styx just like her, was almost raped, and it probably felt all too personal for her. Yes, Father said to tell you, feel free to work Hephaestus as hard as you wish. Hephaestus's face grew even gloomier. Still, wasn't this all his own doing? Tell Zeus I understand. You may leave now. Understood, uncle. Before leaving, Artemis shot one last sharp look at the sulking Smith god. He simply avoided her gaze without any resistance, apparently overwhelmed by guilt. Umph! Artemis left for the mortal world, and I addressed Hephaestus. His well-built muscles, which had seemed like dead weight, twitched as I spoke. Hephaestus. Yes, uncle. Why did you do it? Athena has vowed chastity before the Styx, and you tried to force yourself upon her, without even a proper marriage. But I'm innocent, uncle. What could he possibly claim innocence over now? I looked at him incredulously, but Hephaestus burst out, unable to hold it in. Uncle Poseidon told me that the reason Athena was coming to my forge was because she liked me. Ah, I understood immediately. Those two never had a good relationship. When Poseidon staged his rebellion, Athena, though approached, didn't join him. Medusa, who had been involved with Poseidon, was cursed into a monster by Athena. They even fought bitterly over a city in the mortal world. Poseidon gifted the people a horse, while Athena gave them an olive tree, and the people chose her. The name of that city is Athens, home to those most devoted to the goddess of wisdom. Poseidon tricked you to get back at Athena. I see. Yes, I think so too. But nobody would believe me. Well, of course. Who would believe the words of someone who tried to assault a goddess, who came to the forge? That is... Sigh. Calm down. Calm down. Is this really the right approach? No, it's an educational issue, likely influenced by Zeus and his own dealings with women. Add to that the fact that Hephaestus never even shared a bed with his wife Aphrodite, the legitimate son of Zeus, god of volcanoes, fire, and the forge, and he ends up in this state. The future of Olympus seems very bright indeed. Summon Eros, who handles the task of torturing prisoners. Yes. After a while, a young god, his fingers bleeding ichor, entered the audience hall where I was waiting with Hephaestus. As soon as he entered, the god of love knelt immediately. Lord Hades, I've truly reflected on my actions. Eros, teach Hephaestus what you do here and then return to Olympus. Eros's face lit up, his eyes widening in surprise. The exhaustion that had been visible on his face just moments ago had vanished. Thank you, Lord Hades. I swear I won't do anything like that again, even if Mother tells me to. You, uncle, what is it? Am I to take on the role of torturing prisoners? Couldn't I be assigned something befitting a blacksmith instead? If you keep talking nonsense, I'll speak to Zeus about making you a permanent resident of the underworld. The root of the attempted assault on Athena was Hephaestus's loneliness. Despite having a goddess like Aphrodite as his wife, his desires weren't being met. Then, I shall take my leave. Please follow me. Hephaestus. Watching Hephaestus and Eros leave the audience hall, I rubbed my forehead. Hold on. He was desperate enough to try and violate Athena, a virgin goddess who'd vowed chastity. If Gaia, beautifully adorned, were to appear in front of him, might he also shift his affection toward her, given that they've even had a child together? Maybe I should divorce him from Aphrodite and find him a new goddess. Hephaestus, yes, let's solve your marriage problem once and for all. For now, I urgently called out to Hephaestus, who was about to leave with Eros to the torture chamber of sinners. Hephaestus, yes. The god of the forge stopped for a moment and looked back. Yes, my nephew gave me the bident, often repaired my weapons, and even built Charon's boat. Then I must at least solve his marriage issue to maintain balance. Do you still have feelings for Aphrodite? Think carefully and answer prudently. If you wish, I can find you a goddess whose beauty rivals that of Aphrodite. Hephaestus pondered deeply. Emotions such as confusion, sorrow, affection, and regret flashed through his eyes. Aphrodite has been involved with not only Ares, but also many other male gods. She even has many children. But I understand you must still have feelings. But a marriage cannot be sustained by the one-sided devotion of just one party. Even though Zeus forced you two together, you know this too, don't you? What you did this time has certainly reached Aphrodite's ears. The god of the forge hung his head low and remained still for a long time. Just as he seemed frozen in place, Eros spoke to him. Hephaestus. What is it, Eros? Well, as the god of love, I know this. Mother's heart is already left. Hephaestus let out a sigh deep enough to extinguish the underworld itself and finally spoke. What came out was resignation, accompanied by a bitter smile. Uncle, it seems Aphrodite and I are no longer meant to be. I see. With that, Hephaestus gave up on continuing his marriage with Aphrodite and left. Now, I was thinking of a way to persuade Zeus. Aphrodite's marriage to Hephaestus was a decision made by Zeus, the king of the gods. He did it because he feared that the gods would fight over the incredibly beautiful goddess of beauty. I will accept no further objections. From now on, the husband of the goddess of beauty is Hephaestus. Since it was strongly proclaimed under the authority of the supreme god, it won't be easy to overturn this decision. I would need a proper reason and justification, as well as the agreement of the other gods. To persuade Zeus, I need a way to prevent the gods from fighting and Poseidon's cooperation. But if Aphrodite's official husband disappears, other gods would eagerly pursue her. Wait, male gods. On second thought, I have an advantage here. I heard that Poseidon is currently in Olympus. I'd better head to the divine palace above the clouds right now to convince the gods. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The Olympus Palace. The peaceful beings on the clouds started murmuring when they saw me. Wait, isn't that the king of the underworld? Lord Hades? Could it be because of that issue about Lady Demeter's daughter being taken to the underworld last time? Although a lot of time has passed, he might have come about that lower deity named Medusa. Poseidon was nowhere to be seen, perhaps inside somewhere drinking nectar. I called over a young female servant who was carrying nectar nearby. It's an honor to meet Lord Hades. Where is Poseidon? The Lord of the Sea is over there. I nodded and was about to move, but then I noticed the servant's face. I hadn't seen this face before in the Olympus Palace. Wait, is this a man? What is your name? Are you a newly born lower deity? I am Ganymedes, formerly a prince of Troy. Lord Zeus brought me here to Olympus. O king of the underworld. I looked at the boy who bowed before me. His face rivaled that of any goddess. Yet he was a boy. And wait a minute, Zeus brought him here? Don't tell me. Did Zeus bring you here by force? If so, nod slightly, and I will return you to the living world. And no, it's not like that. Lord Zeus has treated me well. He's so frightened he can hardly speak. It's clear he hasn't been in Olympus for long. It doesn't seem like he has any special power or lineage. Did Zeus just kidnap him because of his looks? And from Troy, no less a fairly large nation. Was this really the right thing to do? Not even because he was an important hero or needed for some great purpose, just because he was beautiful. Very well. Continue with your duties. Why, yes, I should bring up this boy's story when persuading Zeus. Wait, if I tell Hera about this too, persuading Zeus will be much easier. As I continued to ponder and walk on the clouds, I finally saw Poseidon. The blue-haired god was drinking nectar beside him, listening to music flowing from a lyre. I walked straight to him and sat down beside him. Poseidon, I have something to discuss. Hades? What brings you here? I need to get Hephaestus divorced and find him a new wife, and I need your help persuading Zeus. He downed the nectar in one gulp and made a disinterested face. Is it because of what Hephaestus almost did to Athena this time? That's right. I worry that if he's given a beautiful goddess, he might turn to Gaia's side. Well, you provoked Hephaestus, didn't you? Thanks to you, Athena suffered a bit. So show some mercy to the nephew you manipulated. If my nephew joins Gaia's side, it will only cast doubt on Zeus' authority, won't it? Why should I help with that? Seeing him smile slyly, it seems he still hasn't given up on his dream of rebellion. To think that he provoked Hephaestus just because he didn't like Athena. The more discord among the gods, the more Zeus' authority is doubted. He seemed uninterested in the throne of the gods for a while, but now it looks like he's dreaming of some strange ambition again. I don't understand why you're so obsessed with this throne of Olympus. Honestly, Hades, from my perspective, I don't understand you either. Anyway, I don't particularly like Zeus, so do as you please. Are you still thinking about overthrowing him? Humph. If I'm willing, will you consider joining me? The Lord of the Sea muttered as he turned his head away. So he's not really thinking about starting a rebellion. Just causing some minor trouble, I guess. Still, thinking about it irritates me. He provoked his poor nephew and now wants to act like he had nothing to do with it? This guy, always harassing mortals. All right, I'll try persuading you differently. Although no one believes it. What if I confirm that you did indeed provoke Hephaestus? And thanks to you assaulting Medusa, she's now in the underworld grinding her teeth. It wouldn't be a bad idea to bring her to Olympus to expose your crimes. I can't even count how many human victims you've killed who are now in the underworld. I could assign a small fraction to serve in the training grounds where those connected to the living world go. Your reputation among heroes who will return to the living world will hit rock bottom. In reality, these are things I am reluctant to actually carry out. I would have to respect Medusa and the other victims' wishes, making it impossible. Besides, there's no reason for me to directly oppose Poseidon. If it's not for the purpose of opposition, I shouldn't even be having this conversation. But working in the underworld has made me build up irritation without realizing it. Too many victims complained to me about their resentment against Poseidon. As I said this, Poseidon's face turned red, and he slammed the table, standing up abruptly. Fortunately, because of his temper, he didn't catch on to the oddities and let it slide. If he thinks about it slowly later, he'll realize it was all bluster. What? Hades, are you threatening me? His blue divine power flickered in his eyes, and the gazes around us turned in our direction. Now that I've shown the whip, it's time to show the carrot. Don't get so angry, Poseidon. Do you think I would do this if I had any other choice? If you help me this time, I will let you meet those who have already died. My dead children, all of your illegitimate children, as well as the mortal women you loved. Humph. Poseidon sat back down and looked at me. Not even Zeus can interfere with my authority over the souls of the dead. I even rejected Zeus' request to let him meet Semele, Dionysus' mother, and a mortal woman he killed by accident. Aside from rare exceptions like Phaedon and Helios, meeting between the dead and the living is a matter of maintaining the world's balance, and thus is not permitted, even to the gods. Poseidon, who has an extraordinary affection for his children, found this proposal enticing. He grumbled, took another nectar, and gulped it down. They say mortals revere you as the god of mercy, yet you show none to your own brother. Think of it as your karma. The victims of your actions keep coming to the underworld regularly. Over some mere mortals. Hephaestus seems to have given up on Aphrodite too. If you help get them divorced and find him a new wife, wouldn't he owe you something in return? Poseidon rolled his eyes, pondering. He's calculating the benefits of agreeing with me versus the losses of refusing. I'll make sure to tell Hephaestus you were a great help. You wouldn't want to be hated by your nephew for nothing, would you? Fine, but I won't be able to help actively. Just so you know, that will suffice. Now let's go persuade Hera. It's enough if he simply shows agreement with my opinion. The mere fact that Poseidon and I are in agreement could sway Zeus' mind. I heard that Poseidon also courted Aphrodite when she first appeared. He must have given up after she had children with Ares. Or maybe it was because he feared his official wife Amphitrite's wrath. Poseidon and I moved to see the queen of the gods, Hera, the beautiful goddess, applying olive oil to her face inside a suitably large building, jumped in surprise upon seeing us. Hades and Poseidon? Don't tell me a rebellion? You misunderstand. Of course, that's the first thought she has. So, you're saying you want to divorce Hephaestus and Aphrodite and match them with new partners? Exactly. If you help, it will be much easier to convince Zeus, wouldn't it? After calmly explaining, Hera quickly understood that it wasn't a rebellion. Regaining her composure as the queen of the gods, she leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. You're asking the goddess of marriage to help break up a marriage? Do you think this is right, Hades? But you know that their marriage was unstable from the beginning, don't you? Hera frowned slightly. Finding them a new, harmonious family is a duty that the goddess of marriage should fulfill. isn't it? You could see it that way. Hephaestus has already given up on Aphrodite. If you find him a new family, he will be so grateful to his mother that he will shed tears. Hephaestus was thrown to Lemnos Island by Hera as soon as he was born. Fortunately, she now regrets it greatly. I believe that the root cause of what happened between Hephaestus and Athena lies in his unsatisfactory relationship with Aphrodite. It even led to having a child with Gaia. If Gaia were to dress beautifully and appear before Hephaestus, he might be swayed by her beauty, maybe not outright betrayal, but leaking information or granting a small favor wouldn't be out of the question. Hera was quite fond of Athena, so this incident must have been a shock to her. A bit more persuasion, and I heard that Zeus brought a boy named Ganymedes. Gore, now he's going after boys too. Am I supposed to lose to a boy now? The calm expression of the goddess of marriage changed dramatically as she got angry. So, he really brought the boy to Olympus for his looks? Ahem. Anyway, Zeus himself reaches out for love, or rather, for appearances, even to a young boy, yet he suppresses the love between Aphrodite and Ares, doesn't he? That's true. And if you help me now, Aphrodite may be grateful for your support in her relationship with Ares and could repay you, which means that the goddess of love could. She could help me win back Zeus's attention from that mortal boy. Exactly. If things work out, I will tell Aphrodite that your support was significant. Whether Aphrodite lends her magic girdle, the cestus, or gives advice as the goddess of love, it's beneficial to Hera. All right, I will add my support as well. Now that we're talking about it, let's go right away. As Poseidon, Hera, and I headed to Zeus, we found the king of the gods lying in a wide bedroom, taking a nap. Poseidon approached him and tried to wake him up. Wake up, Zeus. But as soon as Zeus opened his eyes and saw Poseidon, Poseidon, Hera, and even you, Zeus, who had been lying down, immediately grabbed his lightning bolt and stood up, the god of the sky ready for battle. In an instant, a huge building burst apart, and fierce lightning surged forth from his hand, making its presence known. Flash, crack! Is it another rebellion? Poseidon, if you want to challenge me again, bring it on. No, it's a misunderstanding. Sigh. It's not what you think, Zeus. Oh, brother Hades? Then it's not a rebellion. With divine power storms swirling all around, I sighed and rubbed my forehead. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The divorce between Hephaestus and Aphrodite? Yes, so put the lightning down. If I came for rebellion, I'd be wearing the helm of darkness. Only then did Poseidon, who had been keeping his trident at the ready with a sullen expression, and Hera, who seemed incredulous, lower their tension. Zeus, seeing me rubbing my temples behind them, finally let the lightning bolt fade. Well, ahem, Poseidon came while I was asleep. Why wouldn't I assume it was a rebellion? Of course, it was a situation ripe for misunderstanding, but since it involves Aphrodite, we thought we should come to a consensus. Talking about this in a building that was blown apart felt strange. Nearby gods murmured, and from afar, I saw Hermes hastily flying towards us. Sigh, let's move somewhere else. That's probably best. And so we entered a quiet room. Poseidon, Hera, Zeus, and I sat around a round table. I explained the reasons for Hephaestus and Aphrodite's divorce in detail to Zeus. How Hephaestus had been driven to the point of trying to assault Athena. How he might fall for Gaia if she appeared in an alluring form. Just last time at the Festival of the Arts, he had even exposed Aphrodite's affair with Ares. So things must have been dire. The goddess of beauty had a child, Harmonia, with Ares, and now Hephaestus had given up on Aphrodite. After thinking for a while, Zeus looked at me and asked, "But why are you so involved in their affairs, brother?" I feel sorry for him, that's all. My nephew has made many things for me so far. That bident of his was quite sharp. Poseidon brought up the bident. Indeed, no other weapon could compare to the bident. If Hephaestus has already given up on the goddess of beauty, then morally, divorcing them might be the right choice. But, are you worried that the other gods will fight over her? That's exactly the problem. If I reverse a decision I've made, The weight of the king of the gods' words would lose its authority. That's why he hadn't divorced the two until now. Of course, part of it was out of consideration for Hephaestus's contributions, and part of him had hoped that the infidelity would eventually stop. There were many reasons mixed in, so we'll just help out a little. Right, Poseidon? Well, as long as I show some agreement, I'll allow it too. After all, they've never had a happy married life. Zeus stroked his beard thoughtfully once more. But will I be able to quell the resistance of the many gods? Send the ones who are too upset to the underworld. Those driven mad by lust for the goddess can be properly educated. Are you sure? Sending too much work to the underworld. Sending too much work? I'd say I'm actually reducing it. In truth, I didn't think there would be too many like that. With me, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hera issuing a stern warning. Who would dare openly complain? Fine, that's how we'll do it. Summon Hephaestus from the underworld for now. I'll also gather the gods of Olympus. Good. You've made the right choice. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After much consideration, I've come to the conclusion that it's best to sever the bond between Hephaestus and Aphrodite here. In a gathering of most of the gods, Zeus announced their divorce. Let's see. Aphrodite couldn't hide her look of joy, while Hephaestus sighed and stood silently. Hephaestus, I will introduce you to a new wife. How about Aglaea, the goddess of radiance? Yes, I will follow my father's will. Aglaea, the goddess of radiance. One of the 3 daughters born from the union of Oceanus, the Titan who rules the seas, and Eurynomy with Zeus. The goddess with beautiful sea-green hair waved to Hephaestus. The god of the forge seemed somewhat satisfied as he looked at her face. Although she couldn't quite compare to Aphrodite, Aglaea was still very beautiful. Aglaea subtly pushed her way through the gods and linked arms with Hephaestus, smiling. Hephaestus. Yes, the necklace you made for me last time was really beautiful. Although Hephaestus was the god of blacksmiths, he also held dominion over fire and volcanoes, giving him very high status. No matter how unattractive his face was, as one of the 12 Olympians and the legitimate son of Zeus, it wasn't like there was no demand for him. Aphrodite and Ares, on the other hand, seemed overjoyed. The problem was as expected the other gods. It began with Hermes' question. Father, didn't you say last time that Hephaestus was Aphrodite's husband? At that, Zeus's expression turned sour as he glared at Ares and Aphrodite. Those two are inseparable. They even had Harmonia and Eros together. Despite Zeus's sharp gaze, Ares and Aphrodite didn't seem fazed. In fact, they shrugged, as if they were willing to accept that level of reproach. Imposing unwanted love was my mistake. However, if anyone starts unnecessary disputes over Aphrodite, they will be struck by my lightning. Rumble. With Zeus's fierce warning and the watchful eyes of Poseidon, Hera, and me, no minor gods would dare fight over Aphrodite. I'll have to tell Aphrodite to tone down her seduction of the other gods. Though there's nothing to be done about Ares, we'll have to control the seeds of discord. Still, the problem lay with some of the higher-ranking gods who were mesmerized by the goddess of love's beauty. Aphrodite, if you ever get tired of Ares. Hermes, Minos's granddaughter Epimesine, whom you forced yourself upon, is in the underworld. Should I bring her here? Why? No, that's... Ahem, Uncle Hades. Unlike Hermes, I could make Aphrodite happy. Apollo, the nymph Daphne, whom you turned into a tree, must be weeping in the underworld. That was because of Eros's arrow. Actually, never mind. Poseidon had given up. Then there was another one with a suspicious look. Ah, Dionysus was over there. I glared at him. With my silent signal, Dionysus quickly averted his gaze. Fine. The underworld is full of those who died in madness thanks to his wild festivals. Ah, Ares. Well, he already has children, so we'll let that slide. I took one la. Esty look around at the other gods. Let's see, wind gods, or maybe river gods under Demeter's authority. Wait, aren't most of these gods just a bunch of rogues who do as they please? especially considering that the king of the gods, Zeus himself. Ahem. This concludes the meeting. The wedding of Hephaestus and Aglaea will be held on Olympus. There are so many gods in Olympus, but why are there so few decent ones? After the god of blacksmiths finished his punishment in the underworld, only then would Zeus allow his marriage. And so, Hephaestus and Aglaea's wedding was sadly postponed. Once again dejected, Hephaestus returned to the underworld. I was in the middle of warning Aphrodite. Let me remind you again, each time you seduce a god, it causes a crack in Olympus. Yes, I know. You already gave me an unwanted marriage, so I'll try to deal with it in my own way. Okay. The goddess of beauty grumbled with a slightly pouty expression. Standing next to her, fiddling with his bow, was Eros. The reason Eros, who was supposed to be in the underworld, was here, //, it was because I thought Hephaestus had reflected enough, so I had him switch places with Eros. I promise I won't shoot arrows recklessly anymore. I can't force the god of love not to spread love, but still refrain from shooting at random. He'll practice archery on a proper target from now on. If he dares to shoot arrows wildly one more time, eek! Eros hid behind Aphrodite. If he does that one more time, I might have to give him a good spanking. Aphrodite, who was patting Eros' head as he hid behind her, looked at me and smiled. It wasn't her usual seductive, flirtatious smile, but rather, "Thank you sincerely for convincing Zeus, Hades." It was just a pity that the goddess of love couldn't love freely. Her gaze and demeanor seemed genuinely heartfelt. Did she truly dislike Hephaestus that much? Well, considering she was forced into the marriage, it made sense. After making a vague comment and mentioning that Hera had been a big help in the matter, I turned away. It's time to leave Olympus. Brother Hades, Zeus, is there something you need? As I was about to head back to the underworld, Zeus called out to me. Judging by his expression, he probably wanted me to attend another meal, banquet, or maybe Hephaestus' wedding. There's a human who wishes to host a great feast for us gods, brother. Would you come along? If I go to such a feast, won't it just dampen the mood? The one wishing to honor us is my son. He's also the king of Lydia. He's a human who is very respectful towards the gods, and I'd like for you to meet him. Ah, so it was Zeus' son. That explains why Zeus wants me to attend the feast. Since it's his son, and he's a human who worships the gods devoutly, Zeus likely wants to ensure that he receives some favor in the afterlife. If he's Zeus' son, that makes him my nephew too. Since he's the king of Lydia, the banquet shouldn't be too dull. I suppose I could make a brief appearance. It's hard to guarantee a comfortable place for him in the afterlife just for being polite to the gods, but I'll attend. Good decision. I think you might grow quite fond of my son once you meet him. Zeus suddenly turned serious, looking at me with a hardened expression. That's just the surface reason for inviting you, brother. Is there a deeper reason? Asterisk. The gods heading to meet the king of Lydia, Zeus' son, were 7 in total. Me, Zeus, Hermes, Dionysus, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hera. Apparently, all 12 Olympians were invited, but Athena was busy pouring her strength into rebuilding her temple that had recently been destroyed by the Chimera. Hephaestus was in the underworld, and Aphrodite and Ares didn't come since they were too busy enjoying their romance. The twins Apollo and Artemis, they were probably out hunting somewhere. Flying on clouds for a bit, we soon arrived at a royal palace on Earth. A lavish outfit adorned with gold thread and a crown. Was that Zeus' son, the king of Lydia? It's a great honor that the exalted beings have graced us with their presence. Tantalus, I trust today's feast will be something to look forward to. Of course, Lord Zeus. I shall present the finest dishes for the gods of Olympus. My nephew, named Tantalus, paid his respects to each god. His demeanor was certainly refined, just as Zeus had said. Oh, praise to the queen of the gods. Thanks to Lady Hera, I have always lived harmoniously with Dion. To think that Hera's reaction to Zeus' illegitimate child was just a displeased glance. It seems that Zeus indeed favored him greatly. O great ruler of the seas, it is thanks to Lord Poseidon's grace that Lydia's maritime trade has flourished. Indeed. Next, Tantalus looked at me respectfully. With his hands clasped and his body bowed, avoiding eye contact, he seemed quite accustomed to dealing with the gods. Might I inquire which god you are, that I may know your exalted names? I am Pluto. It's an honor to meet the father of the dead. Lord Pluto, he went on with various praises. Thanks to my blessing of wealth, the people of Lydia lived in prosperity, and my symbol, mint, was spreading widely across Lydia. His praises were not overdone, but just appropriately expressed. After finishing, he bowed and guided us. Please follow me this way. The food fit for gods is being prepared, so please wait for a moment. Shall we enter? With Zeus leading the way, we followed him into the palace of Lydia. Servants and handmaids led us into a spacious enough room. I shall wait outside the door. Call upon us whenever you need. Soon, the other attendants left, leaving the gods alone. I briefly recalled Zeus's words. The man has always been respectful and polite to the gods, so I brought him to Olympus to taste ambrosia and nectar, and he dared to steal some of the food of the gods. Tantalus did that? Yes. Perhaps the reason he invited us to this feast is to apologize for that. The reason I insisted you join us, brother, is that much is obvious, isn't it? You want me to reduce your son's punishment in the underworld for daring to steal ambrosia and nectar? You're usually the first to show no mercy in situations like this, Zeus. True, but he served the gods well so far. His wife is also the daughter of Atlas, the Titan. I'll make a decision based on how this reception goes. If he confesses everything and kneels to apologize, I may forgive him with a suitable punishment. But if not, so he married the daughter of the mighty Atlas. Atlas, the Titan who resisted us to the very end during the Titanomachy. He is now eternally condemned to hold up the sky, and the only reason he abides by this punishment is because we spared his beloved daughter and her children. Zeus is concerned that if Tantalus is punished, it could lead to a rebellion through Atlas' daughter, involving Atlas himself. With Gaia's threat still looming, we don't need the risk of Atlas throwing aside the sky to fight us. Just one act, stealing a little ambrosia and nectar, is not enough reason to severely punish Atlas' son-in-law, especially since he's also Zeus's own son, and there is some familial attachment. Unless, of course, he commits an act that more clearly and grievously insults all three major gods. After a short wait, Tantalus returned. He instructed the servants to pour stew into a large bowl, bowing to us. Thank you for waiting, O gods. The stew with rare meat is now ready. Please enjoy to your heart's content. Indeed, it wasn't an exaggeration. The stew gave off a delightful aroma. Various herbs and spices mixed well, giving the stew a beautiful color. However, you expect us to eat this? The meat in the stew is human flesh. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There wasn't a single god here who didn't realize the stew contained human flesh. Even a lesser deity would sense something was off and refuse to eat it, let alone the gods here who hold the highest rank. Anyone who serves human flesh to the gods is not in their right mind. I cast a suspicious glance at Dionysus, who appeared expressionless, his eyes nearly rolling back. It was the expression he had just before succumbing to madness. So it wasn't that Dionysus had succumbed to his own madness. The other gods, too, refrained from touching the stew, holding back their anger. As soon as Zeus, king of the gods, looked at the stew, he closed his eyes. No one attempted to eat the food, and instead, they all glared coldly at Tantalus, who spoke with an innocent smile. I've never seen a mortal as deranged as him in my thousands, tens of thousands of years of divine life. O gods, why do you not partake of the meal? You insolent wretch! Tantalus, have you truly lost your mind? Flash boom! Crash! Before Tantalus could finish his taunting words, Zeus let out a thunderous roar filled with rage. In his fury, a lightning bolt struck from the sky, obliterating the entire palace. Rumble, thud. The massive palace became ruins in an instant, and countless humans groaned beneath the debris. It seemed many were caught in the aftermath, given the number of dead souls I could see. Ugh! What is going on, gods? Your Majesty? Amid the groans of humans coming from all directions, Zeus, indifferent, levitated the stew. The pieces of human flesh floated in the air and gathered, and he handed them over to Demeter. Perhaps he intended to resurrect the person who had been turned into stew later. The poor human, killed by his father and nearly eaten by his grandfather, would have to be revived. I'll have to erase only his memories of the underworld and bring him back to life. Even though the laws of the underworld are strict, this will have to be an exception. Zeus, who had barely managed to suppress his rage, gestured. Bloodied and sprawled, Tantalus was dragged forward, clutching his throat as if something had grabbed him, struggling. Cage, ugh! You dared to make a human eye into a meal and attempt to serve it to us? Who was the dead human, and why did you do this? Ugh! Answer me. Lightning flashed in Zeus's eyes, radiating a powerful pressure. In the face of the wrath of the king of the gods, the feeble mortal could do nothing but tell the truth. And what came from his mouth was beyond imagination. To see if the gods are truly wise, that was my son. To test whether the gods are wise, he killed his own son, cooked him, and served him as a meal? Tantalus had fainted and was thrown to the ground, while Zeus approached me. With every step Zeus took, flames and lightning flashed, and thunder continued to roll in the sky above. I'm sorry, brother. I never imagined that Tantalus would act like that. That madman should be thrown into Tartarus. Since he killed his own child and turned them into food, eternal hunger would be the perfect punishment for him. Should I call upon Limos, the goddess of hunger, for help? No. That madman needs to suffer for a long time. There's no need to make Limos waste her power on him. There was a madman who lived in the same era as Sisyphus, the one who had imprisoned Thanatos. A man named Erysichthon swung his axe at an oak tree cherished by Demeter. Crash! Thud! Teach the tree is bleeding. Erysichthon, please stop chopping now. I swear I will surely have my revenge on you, human. The oak tree bled from the wound and spoke of vengeance, but he ignored it and cut the tree down. Thus, Erysichthon incurred Demeter's wrath and received a visit from a goddess sent by Demeter. Food. Bring me more food. Sell everything and buy more food. Father, it's already more than 60 servings. Hungry. Quickly. The goddess, at Demeter's request, inflicted Erysichthon with unbearable hunger, making him squander all his wealth, and eventually, he devoured his own body until he died. That very goddess is Limos, the embodiment of hunger. Zeus, looking at the pile of human flesh brought by Demeter, spoke. Though he was the king of gods who had lived for ages, he couldn't hide his shock at the madness of this human. Demeter, we must go to the Fates, the Moirai, and have them resurrect this poor soul. If we can reconstruct his form, we can bring him back. Then we must soon return his soul from the underworld as well. At that moment, the sound of wings flapping was heard from above. 3 goddesses with snake-haired heads, bleeding eyes, bronze wings, and torches in hand appeared. A representation of the 3 goddesses of vengeance was heading towards Tantalus. You kill your own son as his father. You will suffer for eternity. Your sins will never be light. The manifestations of the goddesses of vengeance were apparitions visible only to those who had sinned. Tantalus would be tormented by that vision for all eternity until he died. Wait, if he is tormented by the vision until he dies, wouldn't he be freed from them after death? Poseidon must have reached the same conclusion as he looked at me. Hades, what do you think of imprisoning that despicable one alive in Tartarus? That sounds like an excellent idea. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Tantalus woke up in a cold sweat, eyes snapping open. Hadn't he died for his sin of deceiving the gods? The entire palace had been destroyed by the wrath of Zeus. Could this place be the afterlife? Tantalus tried to move his body to get up, but he was tightly bound with ropes and could not budge. He barely lifted his head to see the surrounding landscape, resembling a cave. Awake now, Tantalus, Pluto, the underworld, a chilling aura lingered around him, and as he followed the voice echoing from somewhere, he saw Pluto sitting on a black throne, staring at him with sharp eyes. Other deities who seemed to reside in the underworld were also present, one with black wings and a female deity with teal hair. Everywhere was pitch black, and the few torches that lit the surroundings were dimming. The darkness emanating from Pluto seemed to devour the warmth of the torches, creating an illusion before his eyes. Your sins will never be like ugh, and the hallucinations, which had been audible from earlier, seeped into his mind. The goddesses of vengeance, as expected, deceiving the gods was impossible for a mere human. Tantalus, groaning in pain, then heard Pluto's low voice. If things continue like this, he would die. The god Pluto also holds the aspect of mercy, so he must somehow invoke that mercy. Now then, let's discuss the price for killing your son and offering him to your relatives. Is deceiving the gods such a grave sin? Silence, you wretched worm. Boom! At the thunderous roar of the god with black wings, standing beside Pluto, Tantalus' head was slammed into the ground, striking it heavily. However, as the ruler of the underworld, seated on the throne, gestured, the oppressive force disappeared. Thanatos, please calm yourself for a moment. The sinner has the right to an excuse at least. Speak, if you will. Tantalus racked his brain with all his might. The underworld is Pluto's domain alone, and even his father Zeus cannot interfere. So if he could somehow persuade the god of the underworld sitting on the throne and receive mercy, there might be hope. But lies may not work on a god. He had killed his son and made him into food, but none of the gods had eaten it. Even the goddesses of vengeance were tormenting him. Do you have nothing to say? And no, it's just that, yes, compassion. I must appeal to the feeling of compassion from that black-haired god. The sin I committed was blasphemy, daring to steal the food of the gods and attempting to deceive them by cooking a human. But what he had heard about Pluto was that he was the most merciful of all the gods. Unlike the cruel and capricious Olympian gods, if he could persuade the gentle god of mercy. Is it truly such a great sin for a human to want to test a god? Oh, great god Pluto! I was born the son of Zeus and lived as a demigod, always questioning. Not all stories about the gods are virtuous. There are tales of tormenting mortals and making mistakes. I expressed a small curiosity about the gods, so please forgive me mercifully. I believe I have already been punished for the blasphemy with my death. Please have pity and let me die in peace. Oh, merciful God! Tantalus watched the expression of the figure on the throne after speaking. For some reason, even the surrounding gods were silent. Anxiety began to creep in. After a moment of silence, the god Pluto, who had been staring sharply at him, burst into laughter. It wasn't hearty laughter. It was a sneer. Had he failed to persuade the god? Huh? You think you're dead? No, you're still alive because the god Thanatos hasn't taken your soul. What? And besides, the greatest sin you committed wasn't trying to deceive the gods or stealing ambrosia and nectar. Killing your own son, and then attempting such pitiful excuses. That's your biggest mistake. Tantalus realized only then the mistake he had made. He thought he could appeal to Pluto's mercy, not realizing it extended to his son as well. If you had only stolen ambrosia and nectar, you'd be sentenced to decades of labor here in the underworld. If you died for deceiving the gods without harming others, the punishment might have been reasonable. But you never even mentioned killing your own son. You feel not a shred of guilt. The verdict has been decided. Tantalus tried to come up with an excuse, but no sound came out. As Tantalus struggled to speak, the Lord of the underworld calmly delivered his judgment. Murder is a sin. To kill one's own son is a great sin, and to deceive your relatives into eating his remains is an even greater sin. No matter how many thousands of years pass, you won't be able to atone for it. Therefore, you will be sent to Tartarus, and you will be tormented with unquenchable hunger for eternity, while periodically having your insides devoured by Cerberus. Tantalus struggled against the grasp of the spirits dragging him away. But there was no way he could shake off the power of those spectral beings escorting the guilty. The madman who had cooked his own son was to receive a fitting punishment. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I burned into my memory the final moments of Tantalus as he was dragged away by the spirits. Just as the eagle devoured Prometheus' liver, Cerberus too would periodically feast on Tantalus's entrails. The beast, always hungry and drooling, would finally have a steady source of food. Even as Cerberus continues to tear at his entrails, Tantalus will not die but regenerate. Thanatos will not claim his soul, and I will make sure he stays alive. But why did the gods willingly attend the banquet hosted by Tantalus, who had stolen ambrosia and nectar? Perhaps they expected him to commit such insolence, wanting to find a solid reason to punish the son-in-law of Atlas. Maybe it was a kind of indirect warning? With all legitimacy on our side, it demonstrated that the dominance of the world had surely shifted, even to the Titan gods left in this realm. Since he is also Zeus's son, it would appear we punished him while suppressing our own sorrow. No, I shouldn't speculate further. I didn't ask Zeus directly, so it could just be my guess. I've never seen such a human. Don't let it trouble you too much, Mint. Living for such a long time as a god, you will inevitably see all sorts of things. Mint gazed blankly at where Tantalus had disappeared. She seemed quite shocked. Well, she used to live freely in the river as a naiad. During her time as my priestess, humans revered her, and after she became a goddess, she mostly spread mint and focused on paperwork, so such a scene would indeed be unfamiliar to her. Moreover, she hadn't attended many trials of the dead. Even so, Tantalus's case was truly that of a madman. To think such humans exist. Humans really... The mint goddess shook her head, showing her disdain. Ah, that line of thinking might not lead anywhere good. Perhaps Tantalus's actions are giving her a negative impression. Seeing her lower her head a bit gloomily, I spoke to her. Lady Styx and Lady Lethe have also been to the mortal realm. Maybe it would be good for Mint to go out for a change of pace too. Mint, shall we go to Thebes after a long time? Last time, we couldn't finish our stroll because of the Gigani's attack. Her teal eyes sparkled brightly, the gloom disappearing instantly. Reward. Finally, I get to go, just the two of us like Lady Styx and Lady Lethe. How did you know that? Of course, everyone already knows. There's been a lot of talk in the underworld lately about who might become Lord Hades' queen. I wish everyone would just leave my love life alone. Hades, my lord, should we leave right away? Behind Mint, who was urging me, I could see the illusion of a wagging puppy tail. It seemed she was very disappointed that our previous walk was interrupted by the attack of the Giganis. I haven't been attentive to you, have I? If you had told me earlier, I would have taken you with me. Well, I wanted to, but... The goddess of Mint showed a troubled face, expressing hesitation. But, oh no, if we cut the line, we'll be cursed and trampled. Suddenly, she clasped her hands together and trembled. What in the world is she talking about? A curse and being trampled? Anyway, let's pass by the place where the heroes train and go straight to Thebes. I also need a change of pace, so I plan to visit the mortal world. Yes, I'll go get dressed to look pretty for you, Lord Hades. Oh, and also Mint, who had been leaving the audience chamber with a happy face, suddenly froze and spoke softly. Her back was turned to me, so I couldn't see her face, but I noticed her ears were redder than ever. The outfit you wore the first time we met, the one with the gold-threaded decorations, I think it suits you best. Not that it's my personal taste or anything, just if that's what you liked, then I'll wear it again. Was that outfit really Mint's preference? I chuckled at her bold words and changed my attire. It's nothing new, but I'm well aware of my appearance and the popularity I hold. However, because I hold the high position of the king of the underworld, it's rare to find a deity who treats me casually. Most mortals even fear the name Hades and refer to me as Pluto instead. Yet the goddess of Mint is different. Wow, Lord Hades, you look so cool right now. I'll be right back. She wasn't an ordinary lower deity, but a naiad, a water nymph when we first met. Rather than fear, curiosity and excitement dominated her demeanor. It might be that this very nature is what allowed her to become my priestess and eventually rise to godhood. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Mint, and I soon found Chiron at the training grounds where the heroes were practicing, a place imbued with the power of Persephone. The centaur sage looked happier than ever, giving lectures to the aspiring heroes. When shooting an arrow, your feet should be shoulder-width apart, and your hind legs should. Chiron drew his bow and aimed at the target. The heroes, who were sitting widely around the clearing, watched his demonstration intently. After Chiron finished his explanation, they spread out to practice archery. It seemed like they were all beginners as they awkwardly pulled their bows. Chiron noticed us and approached. We were standing at a distance far enough to not disturb the heroes, but he spotted us. When did you arrive, Lord Hades? Lady Mint is with you as well. Chiron, it seems the heroes are progressing well. Yes, of course. You've sent many heroes who have completed their tasks recently, haven't you? Thanks to that. Chiron trailed off and turned his head. At a clearing further away, the heroes were sparring with their weapons. There were some familiar faces. There's Bellerophon, and Perseus is there too. Crash! One man easily dodged a flying sword and tripped the man facing him, sending him tumbling. The fallen man protested to his opponent. King Perseus, what's a great hero like you doing here? What do you mean? Training the next generation is also a hero's duty. But still, a former king training here? Lord Cadmus is also here. Compared to him, I'm nothing. Now come at me. It was quite a sight to see famous heroes who had completed their quests and passed away, training future heroes. When Perseus died and came to the underworld, Zeus had planned to make him and his wife Andromeda into constellations. But when Perseus learned about the hero training ground in Thebes, he declined and expressed his desire to help train the next generation of heroes, even in death. His wish was granted. Zeus had originally intended to send him to Elysium, but Perseus, feeling guilty for killing his grandfather, knelt and refused, saying he was unworthy. In many ways, he reminded me of Cadmus. With such high-level training available, it's much better than when I taught them alone. I'm glad it's been helpful. I'll send more heroes here, if there are any who wish to join. After watching the contented smile on Chiron's face for a while, I shifted my gaze to Mint. She was watching the heroes train, admiring the scene. Wow, Lord Hades, look over there. Is that the giant snake python? Mint, if we show ourselves to them, it will cause unnecessary commotion. So let's move quietly. I urged Mint, and we stepped through the rift in space. Whoosh. What the? The heroes haven't come out. Oh, Lord Hades. As soon as we crossed over to the mortal world, we were greeted by a middle-aged male priest who was startled upon seeing us. A highly devout senior priest. His name was Vasilides, was it? Your unwavering devotion in offering prayers every day is truly commendable. To think that you remembered my name, it's an honor. Sniff. Wait, hold on. Don't suddenly collapse on the floor crying. I was only complimenting you for offering prayers every morning and evening. The ground is stone and cold, you know. I'd better get moving quickly. I find it uncomfortable to watch my priest lying on cold stone. Stand up. But how could I? That's an order. Only then did the priest carefully rise. You must keep it a secret that the goddess of Mint and I have come to Thebes. Of course. I swear on the river Styx. That kind of oath is unnecessary. As soon as I heard the mention of the river Styx, I stopped him from speaking. Why would he immediately try to swear by the river Styx? There's no need to go that far. Isn't his devotion a bit excessive? If we stay here any longer, he might faint, so we'd better move quickly. Passing by the priest, who displayed a near-fanatical level of devotion, we concealed ourselves and blended into Thebes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As soon as I stepped out of the temple connected to the underworld, what greeted me was, "Come now. Will you keep insisting?" Pluto's rightful wife is none other than the goddess Styx. Aren't you the one with weak arguments? Didn't he fall for Persephone after being struck by Eros' golden arrow? That golden arrow wasn't even officially acknowledged by the priests of Pluto's temple. Stop spreading baseless rumors. Then how do you explain the statue of Lady Lethe being placed right next to Pluto's? The scene in front of me was filled with countless Thebes citizens, debating who Pluto's rightful wife was. Some were passionately arguing, while others wore intrigued expressions as they voiced their opinions. The only issue was there were so many of them that they filled the entire open space in front of the temple. I caught Mint's gaze, and she returned my look with the same bewilderment. The goddess Mint was originally a nymph who later became a minor deity. Doesn't this show how much Pluto favored her? That's because Mint, which symbolizes Pluto, was created. It has nothing to do with favor. Suddenly, the discussion shifted to Mont. The argument over whether my action of elevating Mint to a minor deity was due to my affection or merely a reward. Squeeze. I felt a small hand grasp my right hand. The soft, shy touch of the goddess clung to me, and I turned my head to meet her gaze. Hades, I'm curious too. Mint, what do you think of me? A question she posed the moment we returned to the living world. Her face was flushed red, but she maintained eye contact with me. It was a question she'd been wondering about for some time. Her eyes held a hint of uncertainty. Though Zeus had been the one to elevate Mint to a minor deity, not me, when it came to whether or not I favored her. Hades, her lustrous, teal hair gleamed, and her clear eyes stood out even more. Even as a water nymph, she boasted beauty that rivaled that of other goddesses. Now that she had become a minor deity, she was even more stunning. As I silently looked at her, Mint seemed to sense my hesitation and quickly spoke again, her voice filled with urgency. I'm not asking to be your official wife, but even as a concubine. Mint. I slowly raised my hand and gently patted her head, and she stopped speaking. Once I might have thought of avoiding the situation, but I had long since decided not to run away anymore. The moment I first met Mint when she was still a nymph, the day she worked as a priestess in my temple, when she came to the underworld as a minor deity out of affection for me and worked alongside me, all those scenes flashed before my eyes. In a place where endless petitions and tasks awaited me, the reason I could still smile, the goddess of Mint, who never lost her cheerfulness even in the underworld, had without a doubt found a place in my heart. You don't need to beg. I don't dislike you either. Her eyes widened in surprise before she relaxed and hugged me tightly. The refreshing scent emanating from the goddess enveloped me as I savored the soft texture of her teal hair. As I enjoyed the moment, something caught my eye behind Mint. I love you, Melodiphos. I feel the same, Alkios. Two men in their 20s or 30s embraced each other. Even more shocking, the other citizens seemed completely unfazed by the sight. Indeed, that's true love. Love with women is purely for procreation. It's not real affection. Baffled by the sight, I quickly scanned the surroundings. Hundreds of men, dressed in matching soldier uniforms, were openly engaging in romantic displays on the streets. Which lunatic dared to spread poison in my Thebes? Hades? Hades? Mint anxiously called out to me upon seeing my stiffened face, but I couldn't focus on her. Sacred band? Homosexuality is true love? What on earth are they talking about? It couldn't possibly be something Dionysus would dare to do. So has this culture really emerged naturally? Could it be Zeus's influence, having brought the Trojan boy, Ganymede, up to Olympus? Or perhaps, wait, I need to ask you something. Oh, are you a foreigner by any chance? I grabbed the arm of a boy who was running past. He seemed accustomed to strangers approaching him, not surprised by a man who appeared to be an outsider talking to him. It was a good sign that many people were flocking to my city of Thebes, showing its prosperity. But first, I needed to figure out this strange situation. Yes, I've been away from Thebes for a while. What is this sacred band? Sacred band? That's our elite force here in Thebes. They weren't formed that long ago. So what I'm asking is, why is this group made up of men like that? I tried not to look at the hundreds of men still openly displaying affection toward each other as I questioned the boy. Oh, That's because the wise philosophers all said so. Philosophers? Yes. After months of debating about love in the square, they concluded that the love between men is pure, as it excludes the purpose of reproduction. Pretty clever, right? Wait, what? Was this based on any divine oracle or other reason? The boy looked at me with a puzzled expression. Huh, but wouldn't the gods like it too? Like this? Well, since our city of Thebes discovered part of the truth earlier than others, wouldn't the gods be pleased with that? Even the theologians and priests say that the gods approve of relationships between men. So this is Zeus's influence, after all. Now that I think of it, these theologians have been around for a while too. They aren't priests, but people who write about stories related to the gods and their genealogies. And these people also concluded that, meant, let's go somewhere quiet. Hades, I sighed as I watched the boy run off joyfully, rewarded with a few drachmas for answering my questions. Is this Dionysus's madness manifesting among humans? I should have paid more attention to Thebes. I've been quite busy lately, neglecting Thebes, and now it's turned into this. This is exactly the kind of situation where the power of a god comes in handy. Once this date with Mint is over, I'll appear in the dreams of the king or the high priest of Thebes and deliver an oracle. If I order the immediate disbanding of the sacred band or declare that all those practicing homosexuality will be thrown into Tartarus, chaos will ensue. But even a vague statement like Pluto does not favor same-sex love should be enough to stop them. I stopped my thoughts and gently held Mint's right hand, who had been quietly watching me. Ah, sorry, Mint. I got lost in thought for a moment, neglecting you. No, it's fine. As long as you weren't thinking about other goddesses, I don't mind. It looks like there's a festival happening over there. Let's head that way. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hand in hand with Mint, I headed in one direction. It was a relief not to see any more of those strange sacred band people. As I suspected, there seemed to be a festival going on in Thebes today, with people walking around with cheerful smiles. But what caught my eye were the mint leaves in everyone's hair. Certainly, the festival has drawn quite the crowd today. I suppose I'll take a mint leaf too. Yes, here you go. A man, having bought a mint leaf from a street vendor, tucked it behind his ear. It seemed that participating in the festival required wearing a mint leaf in your hair. So could today's festival in Thebes be for mint? For 3 days only. Mint oil at a discount. Great for bathing or even applying directly to your body. Is it more effective than olive oil? This is the mint perfume that supposedly reveals Elysium right before your eyes. And right now, indeed, a mint festival in a city that venerates Pluto. It's fascinating that such a fearful god of the underworld is worshipped in this city. Don't say that here. The people of Thebes are mostly worshippers of Pluto. Remember? Even the priests at the far-off temple of Apollo in Lydia acknowledge the benefits of mint. The god of medicine, Phoebus himself, has a favorable view of mint leaves. They clear the mind and reduce heat in the body. They also have other. So many people were talking about the symbol I had chosen and even holding a festival for it. They were all praising and thanking the grace of the god. No matter how many times I see it, such scenes always warm my heart and give me a sense of fulfillment. Mint, who had been following me, was also smiling pleasantly. Hades, the humans really love mint. That's all thanks to you for creating it. It was certainly a great enough feat to make you a goddess. Mint looked at me and beamed brightly. Is this refreshing scent coming from her? Or from the humans nearby who are enjoying the mint festival? There's something I've been wondering about. What is it? It's about when we first met. You mentioned making mint your symbol back then. The lost memory? Can you tell me what you meant by that? Why would you choose something as simple as a plant I made to symbolize it? Yes, as a reward for bringing back a forgotten memory of mine, I will grant you one wish. Mint looked at me with sparkling eyes. But even if I were to tell her now that there was a time, long ago, when I was a mortal, she wouldn't believe me. The reincarnation of mortals is something handled by various gods of the underworld. Mint wouldn't understand the foods made with mint in a world where science had developed, or the fact that Back then, its distinct scent was something I would smell every day after a meal to keep my mouth fresh. So my answer is, the mint was a plant I was already familiar with. Huh? But before I accidentally created it, it didn't exist in the world. Long ago, in a time you were unaware of, it was a plant that always existed by my side, and its name was Mint. Mint's expression grew distant, as if she were imagining something. I didn't know what she was picturing, but I continued speaking. When that refreshing, distinctive scent reached my nose, I realized that the plant you created was the same one I knew. Ah, that's why I chose mint as my symbol. The mint leaves stuck in the hair of the noisy humans around us. To other gods, it may be nothing more than a peculiar plant with a unique scent. But to me, it was a link to old memories. A precious plant that reminded me that I was once mortal, not an immortal. That plant is mint, and the one who created it for me is mint. I brought my hand to her cheek as she gazed silently at me. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into me, and the refreshing scent of her hair drifted toward me. I'm always grateful to you, Mint. What do you mean? I'm just a mere nymph, and the grace you've shown me, Lord Hades, is... No, you've brought back memories to me that nothing else could replace. Strength, status, fame? Since my reincarnation as a powerful god, none of those things have eluded me. It's been so long, I barely remember, but I'm sure in my past life, I worked hard to obtain such things. So now, the one thing that slips through my grasp. No, the one thing I clearly remember, yet escapes like flowing water, are the memories of my past life. Sometimes I find myself thinking dangerous thoughts. At times, I look down on mortals, much like the gods I once despised. Even you, Lord Hades, the one mortals call the god of mercy. I am not just any god, and even Zeus, the king of gods, cannot easily interfere with me. Most gods are younger than I or hold lower positions. And as the ruler of the underworld, I preside over what mortals fear the most, death. To say I never feel any arrogance would be a lie. As an imperfect god, there are times when mortals' reverence and fear of me make me feel as if I deserve it, and I fall into arrogance. Lord Hades, as the great ruler of the underworld, there have been times I thought I should punish the insolence of humans and assert my dignity. But Lord Hades, you are praised as the most just and merciful of all gods. That's the result of effort, not something inherent in my nature. I, whom mortals call the god of mercy, even when I punished Tantalus recently, I had to suppress darker thoughts of giving him a more brutal punishment. I also had to hold back from wanting to execute him without giving him a chance to explain, driven by the fury of him cooking and serving his son to the gods. Though most of that rage stemmed from the fact that he dared to deceive and insult the gods, there was a lingering sense of resentment at the idea that a mere human would try such a thing. As the ruler of the underworld, who must be the most just of all, I am, in reality, a faltering god. Has your image of me been shattered a little, Mint? No, not at all. The Lord Hades I know is... I smiled at Mint, whose eyes were beginning to glisten with tears. I reached out to wipe the tears from the corner of her eyes and gently rested my hand on the back of her neck. Seeing the goddess's fair skin up close stirred my heart. It seems I have the same feelings as her. It's you who hold me back at times like these. Me? Yes, whenever I recall the scent of mint, I reflect on my actions. As time passes, my view of mortals shifts, eroded by the flow of the ages. But what holds me back is the memory of being human. In my past life, it was a sin I encountered daily and didn't find particularly special. But now, as the god of the underworld, that mint is a precious reminder that I, too, was once mortal. And I'm always grateful to you for creating it. And what else? I think I feel the same way you do. Mint's face, which had been gazing longingly at me, flushed bright red. As I looked at her face, which seemed ready to burst if touched, I gently pulled her closer by the back of her neck. Like iron drawn to a magnet, the goddess's face approached mine without any resistance. Amid the overwhelming, fresh scent of mint, I kissed her. Ah, this sweet and refreshing sensation. It's exactly like peppermint candy. The master of the underworld, who should be the most impartial, is in fact a god who wavers from time to time. Has your illusion of me been shattered a bit, Mint? No, no, not at all. The Hades I know is... Mint stammered, trying to deny Hades' words. The Hades she had always known was truly a god among gods. Unlike other Olympians, he cared for mortals and passed fair judgments with compassion. He was like a father to all souls who reached death. But now, after seeing Hades reveal his true feelings, tears naturally welled up in her eyes. Even the iron-willed ruler of the underworld has such concerns. How hard must he have tried not to reveal these inner thoughts to anyone all this time? Just imagining it made Mint's heart feel like it was about to break, as he gently touched her tear-streaked face and wiped away her sadness. Hades smiled softly and reached out to the back of her neck. Oh wait, is this the kiss? Mint was a virgin goddess with no experience with men. When she was a nymph, she had no interest in men, and after becoming Hades' priestess, no one dared touch her. After she became a minor goddess of the underworld, she was subtly treated as Hades' concubine and respected for it. As the knowledge she had only read about began to happen to her, her heartbeat grew louder. The Lord of the underworld, whom she adored, spoke again. It is you who holds me back at times. Me? Yes. Every time I think of you and remember the scent of mint, I reflect on my actions. Ah, what a kind-hearted God. Such sweet words. Even the whispers of Apollo could not be more enchanting than this. And I am always grateful to you for making mint for me, and I feel indebted to you. And what else? I think I might feel the same way as you. Thump. The same way. That means... Hades' hand on the back of her neck began to apply gentle pressure. Like someone entranced by the song of a siren, Mint's body drew closer to his. His handsome face, like a statue sculpted by Pygmalion, gradually approached, and finally their lips met. Huh! It was a brief kiss like a dream. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After the short kiss, Hades looked at Mint, who was standing there dazed, unable to regain her senses. Standing there with a dreamy expression, as if she were still in a dream, was the goddess of Mint. Mint? Are you all right? Just one more time, Lord Hades. Peck! Ugh! Wait a minute. Just a little more. He gently pushed her back as she excitedly rushed at him and rubbed his lips. Watching us from the side, an old man with a cane clicked his tongue as he passed by. Indecent love in the street. How disgraceful. Tesque. Move aside. Oh, I must have snapped out of it because I kissed Mint just now. Seeing him muttering about impure love, I wondered, was he a philosopher? Wait a minute. Does that mean pure love, like homosexuality, is allowed in the street? Seriously, maybe I should rain divine punishment on Thebes? Why has this kind of culture spread? No, never mind. Even now, the scent of mint beside me is calming me down from my past life. When I return to the underworld, I'll issue an oracle to put a stop to it. After that, I spent more time wandering around with Mint, enjoying the day. I fed her skewers from street vendors, and we placed mint leaves in each other's hair. It was such a pleasant time. Every time I saw Mint smile, the fatigue from my duties in the underworld melted away. After exploring every corner of Thebes until evening, the first thing I did upon returning to the underworld was, "Are you the high priest of my temple?" Gasp! Lord Hades, to what do I owe the honor of your summons? To put an end to the strange culture spreading in Thebes, I then contacted Orpheus and had him relay my will to the king who ruled Thebes, and I asked other gods for help in sending oracles to the mortal world. So, they engage in homosexuality? But wouldn't that reduce the number of newly born humans? Perhaps it's because Zeus brought that mortal boy. Ganymede, was it? That could be the reason. If Lord Hades says so, I will also pass the word on to my followers. With that, I was able to sleep with a peaceful mind. Though sleep is not necessary for an immortal god, it was a nice hobby to calm the mind. However, during the time the Lord of the Underworld slept, Thebes fell into chaos. This was because not only Pluto, the god of Thebes, but also various underworld gods had sent oracles. Lord Hades has expressed deep concern about true love between men. Why? Didn't Lord Zeus also encourage true love? It seems the Lord of the Underworld has a different opinion, suggesting that even the gods have differing views. We must have definitely misunderstood something. Most of the people of Thebes were originally followers of Pluto. The words of the high priest of Pluto's temple quickly spread throughout the city. What punishment will we face in the afterlife if we don't follow the oracle? No, but he is still a god of mercy. How could he? Have you forgotten Pluto's other name? The king of the underworld, hey to him. Surely, not all those who engage in homosexuality will be sent to Tartarus, right? The pride of Thebes, the sacred band, was immediately disbanded that day. This was because the king, who had received an oracle from Morpheus in a dream the previous night, had a fit of rage. Whatever the oracle had been, the king, now gathered with his vassals, declared, "Disband the sacred band at once. I hereby ban same-sex love by royal decree. Sire, your majesty." But the philosophers? Throw those philosophers in prison. Their crime is spreading nonsense in Thebes and angering the god Pluto. Thanks to the vassals' pleas, no philosophers were actually arrested, but their influence significantly dwindled. No mortal wanted to incur the wrath of the god of the underworld, who was also one of the three great gods and the patron of Thebes. Moreover, this wasn't just Hades. Many other gods sent oracles on his behalf, making it even more serious. Goddesses Lethe, Styx, and Hypnos, along with countless other gods, sent oracles to their followers. Could it be that the appearance of the Sphinx in Thebes long ago was also due to divine wrath? Does this mean another monster, like the Sphinx, will appear in Thebes because of the sacred band? If it's just a monster, that would be lucky. Do you know what punishment awaits after death? Our mistake was interpreting the will of the gods with human understanding. The story of Zeus and Ganymede was just one example. I never liked that sacred band nonsense anyway. I'd better keep my household in check. We mustn't upset the god Pluto. In a single day, Thebes underwent a great change. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After my date with Mint, I rested, shaking off the fatigue that had accumulated, and then checked on the state of the mortal world. I focused to see how the humans had interpreted the oracle I sent to Thebes yesterday. You cursed philosophers. If I can't find peace even in death because of you, will you take responsibility? What? True love between men? That's utter nonsense. Those who filled the king's head with strange ideas and created the sacred band walk around with their heads held high. Whack! Crash! Did Pluto say that wasn't true love because he rules the underworld? Perhaps he's worried humans won't have descendants, given his nature as a merciful deity. Or maybe it's because he fell in love with Persephone due to one of Eros' arrows? What? Are you part of the faction supporting Persephone as queen of the underworld? How dare you overlook the goddess Styx, who oversees O's? How much has the goddess of forgetfulness, Lethe, done for us in Thebes? While a crowd cursed the philosopher who supported homosexuality, others gathered in an open space, speculating about the intentions of me, the god of the underworld. There was even a mob assaulting one of the philosophers who had most fervently supported male love. I wasn't particularly keen on learning that this philosopher was actually homosexual. Even soldiers from the royal palace watched the assault without intervening. They did nothing. When I listened to the soldiers' conversations, I heard, "We don't interfere. If we help someone who has angered Pluto, we might be punished by the gods. But, Captain, I believe that the god of mercy would not do such a thing. He cherishes mortals more than anyone else." You fool! This is the first time Pluto has issued an oracle about Thebes' culture. Even so, if he, who usually does not interfere in human matters, is angry, those men will not rest in peace, even after death. More talk of the gods of the underworld. My role as a god of mercy had spread widely, but it was because of the direct interference through the oracle that this happened. I suppose this oracle was a bit of a misstep. I should have known there are many humans who twist the will of the gods, and yet I made such a mistake, forcing my personal preferences too strongly. I'll have to issue a proper clarification of my intent through the high priest. Soon after, a new oracle descended upon Thebes. When word spread from Pluto's temple, the people of Thebes quickly responded. A new oracle from Pluto. While he does not personally favor same-sex love, he has clearly stated that assaulting or exiling people solely for that reason is a sin. Well, I try to stop them. What did I say? Pluto is also a god of me. RCY. He warned us to restrain our actions. Still, he doesn't particularly like that form of love, so we should be careful. Of course, the god of Thebes is Pluto, after all. Upon hearing the oracle, the people of Thebes felt a sense of relief. Pluto, the god known for his mercy, didn't seem to be greatly enraged. Afterward, a custom emerged in Thebes to be somewhat wary of homosexuals, and those who fell in love in such a way were regarded as unfortunate souls tricked by the god Eros Mischief. After settling the matter in Thebes, I was chatting with the goddess Styx as we worked together. The fact that the workload doesn't pile up too much when I leave the underworld is all thanks to her. I swear by the river Styx, your hair shines brilliantly today, my goddess. Ugh, I told you stop swearing like that right in front of me. You hadn't done that for a while, but now you're at it again. Once again, the goddess Styx became flustered at my bold swearing. But how could I resist when her beautiful black hair, which could be compared to silk spun by Athena, shimmered before my eyes? I put down the parchment and, staring blankly at the waves of black flowing in front of me, the goddess, blushing slightly, opened her mouth. Then, would you like to touch it? Just a little? This was too much to bear. Nodding absent-mindedly, the goddess of Oz came closer and leaned against me. Was the scent filling my nose that of the piled parchment, or was it the olive fragrance from her? As she busied herself, pretending to work while refusing to meet my gaze, I placed my hand on her hair. Slowly stroking the goddess's hair, which seemed to slip through my fingers, I felt a strange, indescribable tension. MMPH. Was this happiness I was feeling? Despite the tiresome duties of the underworld, I was enjoying a pleasant moment with a goddess. Thud. Hades. At the entrance of the underworld, Ares is... Oh. Ahem. What is it? Ah. The one who had opened the door was Persephone, goddess of spring and seeds. She quickly scanned the room, noticing me and the goddess Styx closely leaning together, and she pouted, hands on her hips. Umph. Always spending time only with goddess Styx. Do I not exist to you, Hades? You don't even call me uncle anymore. Well, after marriage, I'm supposed to call you by name, right? So when are we going to the mortal world together? Going to the mortal world with you? Oh, don't act like you don't know. The rumor that Hades is going on a trip to the mortal world with the goddesses he's fond of is already spreading all over the underworld. You spent time with Styx, with Lethe, and even that lower deity mod, but why not with me? Please, my dear niece. Although it's not a big issue among gods, there is some psychological resistance. You to me still feel much too young. Though my relationship with you has been refined thanks to the beautiful goddess of spring, the very idea of it still feels unsettling. Maybe it's best to change the subject. What is this about Ares at the entrance of the underworld? Oh, that. He said he needed help because there's going to be a trial for a big fight between him and Uncle Poseidon. A big fight between Poseidon and Ares? The only other time they clashed was during Poseidon's rebellion, wasn't it? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Soon, I saw a male god walking into the audience chamber. A solid frame of iron-like muscle, divine armor crafted by Hephaestus, and a sword at his waist. My nephew, Ares, the god of war, knelt before me with an awkward smile. Ever since the Great Flood, Ares has always dreaded coming to the underworld. So why now? Greetings, Uncle Hades. Yes, I've heard a little of the story. You and Poseidon have been in a major conflict. What happened? And why come to the underworld? I'll explain it slowly. So, what happened was, according to Ares, the issue had arisen because of a demigod named Halorothios, the son of Poseidon. Halorothios, born of Poseidon and the nymph Euryte, apparently caused a lot of trouble in Athens, the city ruled by the goddess Athena. Believing his father's identity gave him free rein. Hey there, since you serve the great goddess Athena, I bet you're not too bad-looking yourself. Please don't do this. We've all sworn an oath of purity. Oath of purity? And what of it? Do you know who I am? He habitually groped and harassed the priestesses of Athena's temple. Thud. Crash. What? You told me to leave because I have no money? Do you know who I am? I don't care if you're Poseidon's son or not. This is no way to Uggs. You ingrate. You've received the blessings of the sea, and you dare treat me like this. In various taverns and inns around Athens, he refused to pay for food or drink and often caused disturbances. Wait, stop right there. That's the olive tree that symbolizes goddess Athena. So what? My father is Poseidon. Rumble. Thud. He even went around chopping down olive trees, which symbolized the goddess Athena, angering her greatly. But Athena, not wanting to confront Poseidon directly, simply scolded him lightly. After hearing all this, I asked Ares a question. Did you hear this directly from Athena? Yes. That scum did all of this, she said. Go on then. Ares had a demigod daughter named Alcippe. She had been grazing sheep near a field outside of Athens when she unfortunately crossed paths with Halorothios. Do you know who I am? Come with me. Marrying me will be in your best interest. Who are you? Ah, father. Shut up already. My father is Poseidon. Splat. Roll. Alcippe, are you all right? Ah, father sobbed thank you. Halorothios, who tried to forcefully take Alcippe, was confronted by Ares, who had run to his daughter's scream. Of course, seeing the madman who was about to rape his daughter, Ares swung his sword and cut off his head. When Poseidon saw that his son had been killed, he furiously rebuked Ares. Ares, you scoundrel, you cut off my son's head? What did you say? Your son tried to rape my daughter. Even so, you fool, I did nothing wrong. As their argument grew more heated, Zeus and the other gods decided to hold a trial to mediate. Well, the one who tried to rape your daughter is probably being punished by the 3 judges of Minos. So, why have you come to the underworld? They all said, Uncle Hades is the one most suited to be the judge. Please, give us a fair ruling. The god of war, passionately arguing before me and gazing at me with emotion-filled eyes. He wants me to give a judgment? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The one who tried to violate your daughter is already dead, so he falls under my jurisdiction. But isn't your dispute with Poseidon something Zeus should handle? This is clearly a matter of the living. Wouldn't Zeus handle the judgment? But the fact that this has been passed to me, that is, as I mentioned, everyone recommended Uncle Hades. Explain in more detail. The situation Ares described in Olympus was as follows. When the fight between them escalated, the king of the gods, Zeus, decided to hold a trial in Athens. And the other gods also expressed their intention to attend the trial. But then I, Zeus, will listen to both sides and render a judgment. Zeus, isn't this something Hades would be better suited for? Hera's right. After all, isn't Hades more used to these kinds of judgments in the underworld? I also think Hades, who is accustomed to passing judgment, would be better. When Zeus volunteered to play the role of judge, the goddesses opposed him and recommended me. Hera, Hestia, and Aphrodite voiced their opinions, and the other goddesses agreed. Fine, let Hades handle it instead. I have no objection. There's no god fairer than Uncle Hades. Then, is everyone in agreement to let Brother Hades be the judge? Even Poseidon and Ares, who stands before me now, said I was more suited to be the judge than Zeus. After Ares finished explaining, I stared at my nephew. So that's what happened, Uncle. Now they're even passing matters of the living to me. My father said if you help, he would give you a ring with similar powers to Harmonia's necklace. Harmonia, the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite, and the wife of Cadmus, possessed a necklace that bestowed youth and beauty upon its wearer, a divine artifact. But we gods are immortals, so we have no need for such things. Still, a ring of youth. It could be useful as a gift for a favored mortal or for my collection. But the fact that Poseidon's son caused trouble in Athens, of all places, the city of Athena. The boy might truly be a delinquent, but could it be that Poseidon either deliberately ignored it or even instigated it? Considering how bad the relationship between Athena and Poseidon is, it's certainly possible. I can understand why the goddesses brought me up when Zeus said he would handle the trial. And I also understand why Zeus so easily backed down. Ordinarily, he would have insisted on being the judge to keep Poseidon in check, but he must have guessed that with my personality, I would be more likely to side with Ares. It wouldn't look good for him to intervene too blatantly. Poseidon probably thought I'd be a better option than Zay. Us, at least. Anyway, this is just what Ares told me. I need to hear both sides before making a decision. All right, I understand. Where do I need to go? Thank you, Uncle. The trial will take place tomorrow on a hill near Athens. If you could attend, then fine. The gods are fighting again, so I'll have to mediate. I'll review the memories of that Halirrhothios, who was killed by Ares and became one of the dead in the underworld, before heading to the trial. The next day, I was heading towards a hill near Athens. Was this the place Ares had told me about? Since I had to pass through Athens, I might as well enter the main road. While I'm at it, maybe I'll take a look around the city of Athena. As expected from a city dedicated to the goddess of wisdom, the streets were lined with countless olive trees. This place, as prosperous as my own city of Thebes, had numerous statues of Athena, carved from cedar wood, scattered around. Bronze lamps from other cities for sale. Olive oil, blessed abundantly by the goddess Athena, at a low price. I need to gather some offerings for the goddess. Would a few pigs suffice? The people's devotion to the goddess was clear. It was easy to see that most of the citizens were followers of Athena. The olives she spread had long since become a necessity for all the city's residents. After casually observing my surroundings and quickening my pace, I soon discovered a magical barrier set up on the hill near Athens. Passing through the barrier, which repelled humans and distorted the scenery within. Do you think Hades would side with a brute like you? If the underworld population increases due to war, it would only annoy him. Even so, he would never side with the son of my uncle who tried to rape his daughter. Enough, both of you. Let's settle this at the trial when the other gods arrive. Ares and Poseidon were already bickering, while Zeus mediated between them. All the gods present began to express their views on the matter. Even Amphitrite, Poseidon's wife, was here. There's never a day when Olympus is peaceful. Demeter and Artemis haven't arrived yet. If we wait a little longer, perhaps... Oh, Hades! The goddess with unmatched beauty, even hidden under a veil adorned with floral patterns, called out to me. It was Hestia, the goddess of the hearth and home, who had spotted me. Hestia, you're here too. I didn't want to get involved in such matters, but... The hearth goddess sighed and shook her head, her gaze fixed on the still tense Poseidon and Ares. Now that Zeus is firmly mediating, they're backing off. Now that Hades is here, and the other gods seem to have arrived as well. We should begin. More gods who hadn't arrived yet started to gather, and at last, the trial between Poseidon and Ares was about to begin. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Thus, on a hill near Athens, the first trial among the gods began. The trial seemed to be properly arranged, with stone seats set up densely. There was also a separate area where high-ranking gods like Zeus and Hestia were seated. Let's begin, then. I ascended a suitable platform as the judge, looking down at the scene below. Now, where do we start? Was it Ares' side presenting their case first? Athena, holding a parchment, stepped forward and greeted everyone. It seems she made eye contact with Ares before stepping forward, so Athena would be speaking on his behalf. I will speak first. Halirrhothios was infamous in Athens for being a delinquent. He regularly harassed and assaulted the priestesses and priests who served me, dined at taverns without paying, and chopped down olive trees, my sacred symbol, without restraint. His conduct was far from appropriate, as many can testify. And what about the current incident, beyond Halirrhothios' behavior? At my question, Athena cleared her throat and continued. The crime of attempting to rape an innocent woman is severe. In contrast, Ares acted out of legitimate defense to protect his daughter. I believe if Poseidon's own daughter were about to be violated by another man, Poseidon would have delivered divine punishment upon him as well. Umph. But to dare kill my son with a single blow. Poseidon, this is Ares' turn to present his case. Hold your tongue. I stopped Poseidon and nodded toward Athena. Lastly, I will present the testimony of the nymphs who witnessed Halirrhothias' attempt to violate Ares' daughter, as well as the whispers of plants and animals as evidence. Evidence provided by Pan, the god of nature, and Demeter. As I reviewed the parchment, it contained testimonies from the nymphs about Halirrhothias' actions. Sworn on the river Styx, all of this was declared as truth. Now, Poseidon, it's your turn to speak. Even if his method of courting an unwilling woman was wrong, how can you justify taking his life with one blow? Hades, you too, as the god of the underworld, understand the weight of life. Could there be any god who thinks it's right to swing a sword and behead my son for a slight misstep? This is a matter of my honor, and it's a case of kinslaying. Surely, the Furies must intervene. Poseidon paused to clear his throat and then continued. As for the trouble Halirrhothias caused at Athena's temple, I offer my deepest apologies. However, aside from that, the rest of his actions were only committed against mere mortals. As my son and a demigod of the sea, his occasional pranks against mortals shouldn't be judged so harshly. Poseidon wasn't entirely wrong. It was in fact kinslaying. However, since no one can hold the 12 Olympian gods accountable, the Furies did not appear. But wasn't it nearly an act of kin rape before kinslaying could even occur? In my view, Poseidon was clearly in the wrong, but I still had to hear the opinions of the other gods. I turned my gaze toward the seats where Zeus and the high-ranking gods were seated. What does everyone think? Speak freely. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. He attempted to rape an innocent woman, so Poseidon's son deserved to die, said Hera, crossing her arms and wearing a displeased expression. I agree as well. Taking someone by force without true love is wrong. I would have delivered divine punishment myself, said Artemis and Aphrodite in turn. The goddess of chastity and the goddess of love, naturally, were siding with Ares. TSK, if it had been my daughter, I would have torn the entire earth apart. Life is precious, but in this case, wasn't it a father's rightful response to protect his daughter? I also think Ares was justified. Demeter and Hestia also took Ares' side. Ahem, I won't say much. I trust my brother will make the right judgment, said Zeus, looking pleased but keeping his words to a minimum. It seemed he had already judged that the trial was leaning in Ares' favor. When I glanced at Poseidon, his face was twisted in frustration. Did he think he would win the trial because of his status and Ares' usual fondness for war? Then let's make a ruling. I also believe that Ares had no choice but to kill Poseidon's son. Hades, that's your nephew. How can you say that? An Ares' daughter, who was nearly raped by your nephew, is my great-granddaughter. I interrupted Poseidon, who was protesting, unable to accept the result. After examining the memories of Halirrhothias, who arrived in the underworld yesterday, I confirmed that he was indeed the delinquent Athena described, and that he tried to rape Ares' daughter. Furthermore, Ares, in his haste, didn't realize that he was killing your son. Wouldn't anyone wield a sword to protect their daughter from such a terrible fate? But still, Poseidon, after examining your son's memories with the help of Mnemosyne, I also found that you had some involvement in the trouble Halirrhothias caused in Athens. Athena has interfered with my affairs many times. Do I need to reveal all this here? I'll preserve some of your dignity, so let's stop here. I conveyed my thoughts to Poseidon using divine power as I looked at him. Zeus was chatting with Hera and not paying attention to this matter, so no one else heard. It was true that Halirrhothias was a troublemaker and that he tried to rape Ares' daughter. However, it also appeared that Poseidon had subtly encouraged his son to cause mischief near Athens. And though Ares' actions were justified, he did kill Poseidon's son. That is, after all, kinslaying. But, uncle, which is why, Ares, you will work in the underworld for 2 months as punishment. Ares, if you don't receive any punishment, Poseidon will surely seek revenge. I hope you understand. Ah, thank you for your consideration. Ares subtly lowered his head toward me. Zeus, unconcerned, was indifferent, while Poseidon grumbled that the punishment was too light. But that was the end of it. With that, the matter seemed more or less settled. The other gods nodded, apparently accepting my judgment. Ahem. So Ares will serve a 2-month punishment? Well, it seems reasonable. Killing the son of the Lord of the Seas might warrant a harsher punishment. What are you talking about? Lord Hades showed consideration for everyone's dignity. Ahem. Based on the judgment of Lord Hades and the other gods, Ares' actions have been deemed just. However, as punishment for killing Poseidon's son, he will serve 2 months in the underworld. As Zeus stood up and organized the assembly, I descended from the platform and gave Poseidon some advice. You need to keep a closer watch on your children. That Triton fellow I met last time seemed more responsible. That's why he's my successor. The others, well, I have quite a few problem children. As the Lord of the Sea turned his back and walked away, he seemed strangely forlorn. While Halirrhothius' delinquency in Athens wasn't ordered by Poseidon, it was certainly part of his nature. Perhaps Poseidon himself doesn't know how to deal with his children. After all, not everything about one's offspring is within a parent's control. Should we see his tendency to protect his children as a form of twisted love? Just as the sea endlessly stirs up rough and violent waves, yet embraces all life beneath its surface, it may simply reflect the nature of the sea itself. As I watched Poseidon's retreating figure, Zeus approached me. He gestured for me to sit down beside him, so I took the seat next to him. A translucent barrier, created by Zeus' divine power, surrounded us, blocking any sound from escaping. Poseidon must be going through a lot, he said. Because of his children? Yes. I think his way of showing affection is somewhat misguided, but it's not my place to interfere. After all, I don't think I've done much better in raising mine. He was referring to Tantalus, who had recently tried to deceive the gods. If that fool had gained divinity, wouldn't he have surpassed Dionysus as the true god of madness? I think you've done well enough with your children. Apollo, Athena, Hephaestus, they're quite remarkable. When Poseidon called Ares a brute earlier, do you know what crossed my mind? I couldn't deny it. Ares' temperament is indeed violent. I even wondered if I had failed to set the right example. Zeus' voice, uncharacteristically soft, was accompanied by a somber look in his eyes. The usually confident and imposing king of the gods was revealing a darker side of himself. I gazed at him seriously for a moment. No one could hear our conversation, thanks to the divine barrier. It seemed he felt a certain burden that made him confide in me. Because of that prophecy, I've spent a lot of time wandering the mortal realm, creating heroes, and I feel guilty toward Hera. There's Callisto, now a constellation, and Io, who suffered in the form of a cow. While Zeus' desire for beautiful women couldn't be entirely denied, in the grand scheme of things, his actions had benefited the gods. Sometimes, great heroes like Perseus, born from Zeus' bloodline, would arise. I knew that wooing mortal women one by one to father children would take too long, and that was why he often resorted to forceful means. Though it could never be justified, Zeus was, in his own way, trying to fulfill the prophecy and create a hero. Just stop doing things you know Hera will hate. There are more than a few victims of your actions down in the underworld because of you. Once we take care of the Gigantes and receive Gaia's acknowledgement of our rule, I'll think about it. With a bittersweet smile, the blonde god stroked his beard. As our conversation dragged on, the other gods started casting curious glances our way, but then quickly turned their heads, pretending not to notice. I took a moment to observe each of them. Apollo, Zeus' proud son, who oversees the sun and many other domains, appeared to be content enough with the verdict, though he seemed uneasy. Ares had a similar air of mixed feelings. Hestia, who had been conversing with Hebe, the goddess of youth, smiled at me when our eyes met. I could understand why Zeus felt the weight of governing all these gods. The Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, plotting revenge. Gaia had yet to acknowledge our rule. The Gigantes were still enemies of the gods, and the prophesied hero had yet to appear. Zeus, you just need to stay in that seat. You You've done well enough so far. Just like always, remain confident and proud in front of your children and descendants. That role suits you. Huh? Huh? Are you comforting me, brother? He asked, brightening as he looked at me. His face now looked more fitting for a king. The king of the gods couldn't afford to look so gloomy, after all. Truthfully, I also had many imperfections, as I had once confided to Mint. If you need anything urgent, contact me in the underworld. But don't summon Thanatos just because some human annoyed you. What are you talking about? I won't trouble you, brother. Take care until we meet again. Flashboom. The barrier of divine power around us vanished as Zeus rose to his feet, chest puffed out, and flew into the sky. The last look I saw on his face was much brighter than before. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After the trial, as Poseidon was returning to the sea with many gods, including his wife Amphitrite, he suddenly stopped walking. Some of the lesser sea gods following him looked at their lord in confusion. Poseidon slowly turned his head to the right and spoke toward the empty space. You may come out now, Gaia. Gaia? The name of the primordial goddess who was currently an enemy of the Olympian gods. The gods around him were shocked by the words that came from his mouth, but it was too early to be surprised, because a captivating female voice echoed from the empty space. As expected of Poseidon, truly the lord who rules over Oceanus' domain. I could sense the power of the earth that didn't belong to Demeter for some time now. Enough with the pleasantries. Why have you come to see me? Poseidon, who had already summoned his trident, the trident of Poseidon, glared at the empty space, standing on guard. But there was no tension in the beautiful voice that echoed back. Of course, I've come to persuade you. I also heard about the quarrel between your son and the son of Zeus. Gaia is the earth itself, a primordial deity who has priority over Demeter when it comes to ruling the land. It is difficult for anything that happens on the earth to escape Gaia's notice. I saw it when Zeus' son killed your son. Was it Ares? The sword of Zeus' son severed your son's neck cleanly. Then, his cold corpse scattered across me, and his blood flowed, chillingly cold. Does it not enrage you? Are you trying to sow discord between me and Zeus? Poseidon's expression became even more grim. As the mood of the sea god grew more uncomfortable, the air began to tremble, carrying the salty scent of the sea breeze. Nevertheless, Gaia continued in her gentle tone. So discord? How could this be sowing discord? Your son was unjustly killed, and wasn't the rule of the sky, sea, and underworld divided by lots between you three brothers? I intend to overthrow Zeus and the Olympian gods. If you help me, Amphitrite quietly grasped Poseidon's hand with a worried expression. The lesser sea gods now held their breath, frozen in place. If one of the three great gods were to side with Gaia, would Olympus have any chance of survival? They waited in breathless silence for the sea god's decision. I could even offer you the throne of the king of the gods, and of course the dominion over the sky as well. Poseidon closed his eyes. Memories of the past flooded him. The moment when they defeated the Titans and divided the world. Hades had been indifferent, but Poseidon had always desired control of the sky. That was why he had once led a rebellion, which often left him at odds with Zeus. The throne of the king of the gods and dominion over the sky were certainly tempting. But, ha ha ha, you have underestimated me, Gaia. Do you think you could persuade me to join you with such absurd talk of power? A booming laugh erupted from Poseidon's throat. Long ago, when Poseidon rebelled alongside Apollo and Hera, even if they had succeeded, he had no intention of imprisoning or banishing Zeus to Tartarus. Zeus was his brother, the one who had freed him from Kronos' belly. He had only wanted to strip Zeus of his heavenly domain, not to go beyond that. But if Gaia were to wipe out Olympus, what would become of Zeus and the rest of his family? You intend to imprison the Olympian gods in Tartarus, just like the Titans. No matter how much I desire power, do you really think I would stoop to the level of Kronos? So you reject my offer? I thought you might be more reasonable than this. Silence. Gaia. The trident of Poseidon, the weapon the sea god was so proud of, was raised high above the earth. When the trident was finally struck into the ground, an earthquake shook the surroundings, leaving nothing but devastation. Fueled by anger and empowered by the trident's divine authority, Poseidon's blow tore the earth apart, revealing its innards. The quake grew in intensity. A deafening roar accompanied the upheaval of everything in its path. Countless lives were lost in the sudden catastrophe. Did you truly think that I, Poseidon, would fall for such nonsense? Amphitrite and the other gods watched in silence as he tried to suppress his growing fury, a rage even greater than when he had lashed out at Ares for the death of his son. Whoosh! Uncle Poseidon, what on earth happened here? Did you fight someone? Hermes, noticing the disturbance, descended quickly from the sky and landed behind him. Beads of sweat formed on the messenger god's face as he felt the overwhelming divine power that could easily destroy an entire city. Poseidon, still not turning to face the messenger, spoke in a heavy voice. Hermes, go back to Olympus at once and report that Gaia tried to recruit me to her side. What, Uncle? Rode. You explain everything to Hermes and return. One of Poseidon and Amphitrite's daughters, Rode, bowed to Poseidon and approached the messenger god. Then, the Lord of the Sea, passing a flustered Hermes, quietly resumed his steps toward the ocean. Is that really true, Hermes? Yes. Fortunately, Uncle Poseidon rejected Gaia's offer, but so now she's trying to win over the gods. 2 days after returning to the underworld, Hermes came to visit. The messenger of the gods brought news that Gaia had attempted to win over Poseidon. Hermes, who delivered this news, looked at me with slight unease. But isn't there a chance Uncle Poseidon could be swayed? Hermes, you still don't understand Poseidon very well, do you? Though he has a somewhat prideful and violent nature, he would never betray us. After all of us, the children of Kronos. But this time, he had a big fight with Ares, and they even held a trial. If his feelings were hurt, of course he wouldn't be pleased. The punishment given to Ares also considered Poseidon's position. For the immortal gods, the concept of time is a bit different from that of humans. Even years pass by in the blink of an eye for the gods, so a 2-month punishment is incredibly light. Poseidon is surely aware of this. The reason he let it slide is partly because he recognized his son had done wrong, and also because I knew he had sent his son to keep Athena in check. Although Ares has been punished, even nominally, Poseidon should feel somewhat vindicated. Even though he may glare at Ares with distaste, Poseidon would never join hands with an external enemy. I see. You must have also reported this to Zeus. What did your father say? He just told me to send a messenger to Uncle Poseidon to thank him for not giving in to Gaia's persuasion. As sensitive as father is about his position as king of the gods, he didn't even doubt Poseidon. See? Even Zeus isn't a fool. He knows Poseidon would never betray us. Even if Poseidon were to rebel, he wouldn't bring in external enemies. Is that all you had to tell me? Oh, there's one more thing. Father said that the goddess of the rainbow, Iris, will be coming here soon. Why is Iris coming here? I'm not sure. Maybe she's coming to invite Uncle Hades to Olympus again. Though I doubted that, I nodded and let him leave. Iris and Hermes both coming to the underworld? If there was a message, wouldn't one of them be enough? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As Hermes said, after a short wait, a messenger opened the audience room door and entered. Lord Hades, the goddess of the rainbow, has arrived at the entrance to the underworld. Let her in, but she is holding a human baby. When I finally saw the goddess of the rainbow after so long, she had a very troubled expression on her face. It must be because of the baby she was holding. Greetings, Lord Hades. Lord Zeus has sent me to deliver this letter to you. All right, but what's with the baby you're holding? That? First, the letter. Iris fumbled in her robes and pulled out a parchment. But there was something unusual about this parchment, as if it had been sealed to prevent anyone else from seeing it. Crackle. When I opened the parchment, the embedded lightning tickled my hand, but I paid no mind and read the contents. Brother Hades, it's me, Zeus. I didn't want to ask for your help, but somehow it's come to this. Is he asking for a favor? You're probably wondering about the baby Iris is holding. Could you hide this child from Hera for about a month? I know what it means to keep a living person in the underworld, but Hera is trying to kill the child with a snake. So, it's another son Zeus had in secret. But for him to ask me for this favor, Hera's fury must be intense. Indeed, the letter mentions that the child had been hidden in mountains, caves, and even the homes of other gods, but Hera always found him. It seems he's now trying to hide the child in the underworld, a realm where Hera cannot see. 1 month? If I keep the child here for a month, will he manage to find a safe place or somehow calm Hera down? He's probably thinking of hiding the child here and there until Hera's wrath cools. But to ask me to hide his illegitimate child, just what kind of child is this? That child is my son, and I've named him Heracles, meaning glory of Hera. There's no doubt that he is the hero prophesied to win the battle against the Gigantes. So even though the laws of the underworld are strict, wait, this child's name is Heracles? Heracles. Heracles. I repeated the name a few times, and it didn't feel unfamiliar. Somehow, I'd heard this name many times before. I definitely know this name. This memory is lodged deeper than the idea of me being struck by Eros' arrow. It's, tell the goddess Styx to dip this baby into the river Styx. Lord Hades, the most famous hero in Greek mythology, the hero of all heroes. The great hero Heracles, who will one day play a key role in the battle against the Gigantes. We have one. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What? The river Styx, you say? Yes. Even the fragile body of a human might improve if immersed in the waters of the Styx. Iris looked at me in shock, but my resolve was firm. The law about the living not entering the underworld or whatever, this must be allowed. The flash of memories from my past life. It was the fact that Heracles was the hero of prophecy. If a living being can endure the power of the river Styx, they will gain a body so tough that ordinary weapons won't even scratch it. If his whole body is immersed, we can prevent the hero of prophecy from meeting an untimely death. But this child is a human hated by Lady Hera. Then why did you come all the way here at Zeus' request? Never mind. If Hera finds out, just say you couldn't help it because of my orders. Iris, Hera's handmaiden, brought this child because Zeus asked her to? Did Zeus send Iris instead of Hermes with the baby to avoid Hera's suspicion? To secretly send an illegitimate child to the underworld through Hera's confidant? What did you use to convince the goddess of the rainbow, Zeus? Perhaps you swore on the river Styx that you'd never lay eyes on Iris again? Yes, I understand. Good. Make sure to tell the goddess Styx to submerge the child completely. Remember that. I sternly emphasize this, lest any part of his body, like his heel, be left out. Seeing Iris head off to the goddess Styx with a reluctant expression, I couldn't help but smile. One of the greatest threats to us gods was now halfway resolved. If this Heracles grows up to be a great hero, the Gigantes are as good as dead. Soon, the goddess Styx entered the audience chamber. The baby in her hands emitted the aura of the river Styx, his body visibly undergoing a transformation. As expected from the son of Zeus, he withstood the power of the Styx's waters well. After handing Heracles over to a nearby handmaiden, the goddess Styx spoke with a worried expression. Hades, I immersed him in the water because he's Zeus' son and destined to become a hero. But if we keep releasing humans who've received the power of the Styx into the mortal world, I know. If too many heroes imbued with the Styx's power roam the mortal world, it would throw everything out of balance. This child will likely return to the mortal realm and eventually study under Chiron, right? If Heracles happens to train here in the underworld, I'll have to tell Chiron to give him a proper moral education, since he'll grow into a powerful hero strengthened by the Styx's waters. We need to ensure he's taught not to harm others recklessly. Of course, he'll be properly trained under Chiron's tutelage in due time. And naturally, we won't be producing a horde of Styx-imbued heroes. Well, that's a relief. But still, you've seen countless heroes. Why give special treatment to this child? I obviously can't say. It's because I know from my past life that Heracles will one day defeat the Gigantes. If you look at the letters Zeus sent, it says that in addition to drinking Hera's milk, this child killed 2 snakes right after he was born. Snakes? How did that happen? It's suspected Hera sent them. Since he's an illegitimate child, it's inevitable. Ah! The dark-haired goddess nodded, understanding. Seeing her click her tongue at Heracles, I added more explanation. The one who brought this child here was the goddess of the rainbow, Iris. Zeus personally requested me through a letter imbued with his lightning. She must have secretly fed him Hera's milk while she was asleep. Hera's fury will be boundless. Exactly. This child may not live a smooth life, filled with the corpses of monsters and the jealousy of men. I turned to look at the baby in the handmaiden's arms. Heracles, unaware of the fate awaiting him, slept peacefully with a serene expression. In truth, this child, Heracles, was deliberately born by Zeus to secure the god's victory. While it's certain that he's strong enough to drink Hera's milk and kill snakes right after birth, I can't help but feel as if we've thrown you into a harsh destiny. But now that you've been dipped in the river Styx, I hope that helps you overcome your fate. Wait. Hades, please avert your gaze for a moment. Your stare is too intense for the child. At the panicked voice of the goddess Styx, I quickly looked away. I must have been staring too intently. I sometimes make this mistake. Since I can't feed him the food of the underworld, I'll have to either find a wet nurse or bring food from the mortal realm for the next month. This is the underworld connected to Thebes, the training ground for heroes. Today, as usual, Chiron and the other instructors of the dead are teaching the aspiring heroes. Suddenly, a bell rings out. Ding, 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 dash. That sound, doesn't it mean we're supposed to gather at the building? Let's delay training for a bit. At the summons of the wise centaur, the heroes laid down their weapons and began gathering at the building constructed within the gorge. Many were panting and sweating, as if they had just undergone intense training. Everyone, gather around. Today, we have a special guest visiting us. Teacher Chiron, a special guest. Who could it be? We already have all sorts of great heroes here. At Chiron's words, the aspiring heroes glanced around at the other deceased instructors. It was understandable. Great heroes like Perseus, Cadmus, and Bellerophon were already teaching them. If someone more special than these heroes was visiting, could it be a god? No way would a god really come here. As the thought of a god slowly dawned on them, someone entered the gathering place. A towering, muscular figure wearing gleaming armor. All eyes were drawn to him as he confidently approached Chiron, standing on the platform, and spoke. These are the ones who want to become heroes? Chiron. Yes, Lord Ares. I heard from Lord Hades in advance. You'll be helping us a great deal for the next 2 months. Who? Chiron just said Ares. Wait, it's really a god? Not just any god, but Ares. The god of war, one of the 12 Olympians, and the son of Zeus. Come to think of it, this overwhelming presence, the power radiating from him. It's an honor to meet Lord Ares. I'm from Sparta. Greetings to the god of war. You've always given me your blessing on the battlefield. Oh, golden-helmed Ares. It's an honor to see you in person. Realizing the situation, the aspiring heroes hurriedly bowed or paid their respects, reacting like any mortal would in front of the god of war. Anyone who saw Ares in person would react this way. But Ares, without even looking back, continued his conversation with Chiron, as if Chiron were the only one here worthy of speaking with him. Yeah, somehow I ended up working in the underworld again, although it's only for 2 months. You've worked in the underworld before, my lord? During the Great Flood, I got caught up in Athena's ruthless scheme. I'd love to hear that story someday. The heroes listened attentively to the conversation between the wise centaur and the god of war. Amidst their casual talk, were they not revealing secrets and tales of the gods? By the way, it must be tough training mortals to at least be able to take down a monster or 2. But they're all exceptional students. It's a rewarding experience. Now that I'm here, I might as well assess their abilities one by one. So then, as Ares spoke with Chiron, he glanced around the area. Under the god's gaze, the mortals couldn't bear to meet his eyes and lowered their heads. But one boy mustered the courage to look at the god of war for a brief moment. Huff! Oh, what's your name? Though he couldn't hold the gaze for long and quickly lowered his head, Ares, thinking the boy had shown more courage than the rest of the mortals here, addressed him. And me, my lord? It's an honor. My name is Peleus, a mere human, lord of war. For a mortal, you have quite the spirit. Then, let's start with you. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. At the moment Ares was conversing at the hero's training ground, in the fortress of the lord of the underworld, Hades, the Olympian messenger god, had arrived, delivering new information. Hermes, you've been coming to the underworld quite frequently lately. Ah, father said that since the hero of prophecy has been born, I should keep a close eye on the Gigantes' movements. Hermes scratched his head awkwardly at my question. The hero of prophecy, huh? Well, I am sure about Heracles. What about the other gods? Do the other gods of Olympus believe in Zeus's words? Not at all, especially Lady Hera, who is absolutely furious. Olympus has been in an uproar because of her shouting. As far as I know, she said, the god of philanderers had an illegitimate child, and now, since he has no other excuse, he's claiming it's the hero of prophecy. Considering everything he's done, it's no surprise there aren't many gods who trust Zeus. There are rumors that Lady Hera is keeping a close watch on the mortal world, intending to kill Heracles. I wonder if she knows that I hid Heracles for a month. Probably, which means I can't keep him hidden in the underworld much longer. Hera's anger is justified, especially since Zeus secretly made Heracles suckle her milk. She must be even more furious. But Heracles is the hero of prophecy, so how do I convince her of that? I had him bathe in the river Styx as a precaution for a situation like this, but there's still cause for concern. No matter how much Heracles grows after being immersed in the river Styx, if Hera delivers direct divine punishment, he'll be killed. So what I must do is, Hermes, deliver a message to Hera, for me, to Lady Hera. Tell her that trying to kill an infant will only sully the hands of the queen of the gods. Instead, wouldn't it be better to wait until he's older and then assign him tasks? If the queen of the gods, enraged over her husband's illegitimate child, can cool her emotions and listen to my advice, as long as he doesn't encounter the Gigantes or directly provoke Gaia's wrath, there won't be any real threat to Heracles. And dealing with monsters as part of Hera's tasks will provide excellent real-world experience for the great hero. Yes, I'll make sure to convey your message when I return to Olympus. Perhaps this is too cruel to my nephew. It's no different from forging him in fire to create the great hero who will defeat the Gigantes. No matter how much mortals call me the god of mercy, I am still the god who rules the underworld. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Now that I've heard enough about Olympus's opinions on Heracles, it's time to move on to the real issue. Hermes being here means that something has happened in the mortal world again. You've come to the underworld to report on the Gigantes' movements, haven't you? Let's hear it. Yes. Recently, something strange has been happening. The monsters that heroes were supposed to hunt after completing their training in Thebes have started disappearing. The monsters are disappearing? Yes. I suspect Lady Gaia, maybe trying to prevent the heroes from completing their tasks entirely, since the Gigantes are still bound in the Phlegrean fields. So now they're actively obstructing the heroes? It seems Gaia's prophetic powers are starting to pick up on things. Her hunch that mortal heroes are somehow tied to the Gigantes might be turning into certainty. If this continues, it might be difficult to raise Heracles into a great hero. The monsters he's supposed to kill might be relocated, or worse, slain by other heroes. That's why Lord Apollo and I searched all over the mortal world, and it turns out the monsters were surprisingly close by. And where is that? Near the northern region of Greece, around Mount Athos in Macedonia. Since the monsters are gathering in one place, doesn't this present an opportunity for many heroes to accomplish great feats? Gaia must have relocated the monsters to prevent the heroes from achieving their great deeds. It wouldn't have been hard for the Earth Mother to influence creatures born and raised in the earth. And so, Lady Athena is planning to issue an oracle and gather an expedition. She intends to rally heroes in the Macedonian region and provide support. However, that might be just what Gaia wants. The heroes could end up being annihilated instead. A large-scale expedition composed of heroes. But it's possible that the gathered monsters could annihilate the heroes instead. That's precisely what Gaia is aiming for. Yet there's no way Olympus isn't aware of this. At my question, Hermes grinned and spoke. But isn't it overcoming challenges like this that makes mortals into heroes? In other words, those who overcome Gaia's trap will prove themselves as truly great heroes. If Athena issues an oracle, heroes from all over Greece will flock to join the expedition, and many mortals will likely die. That's true. So, who will lead the expedition? The hero who will lead the expedition to conquer Mount Athos is a bit interesting. Lady Artemis seemed quite interested in this mortal. Ah, I remember now. Olympus would have already chosen the hero to lead this mission. Focusing their support on someone who shows potential to become a great hero is the wisest course. It's Orion, son of Lord Poseidon. An oracle was delivered from Athena's temples across Greece. The oracle announced the recruitment of an expeditionary force to exterminate the monsters gathered at Mount Athos, alongside Poseidon's son, Orion. The assembly point for the expedition was the kingdom of Macedonia, near Mount Athos. They say all the monsters to be exterminated have gathered there. Athena's oracle confirmed it, so it must be true. Many monsters have gathered on Mount Athos. No wonder I couldn't find any monsters when I went to hunt them. As a result, many who couldn't find monsters to slay flocked from all over Greece to Macedonia. They came with the hope that joining a divine expedition would allow them to accomplish great feats and become legendary heroes. If Poseidon's son is the leader of the expedition, we'll surely receive the sea's blessing. I heard Orion is recruiting for the expedition in Athens. Will you go? I've heard that anyone from Thebes' Hero Training Academy is accepted without question, which seems a bit unfair. Are they favoring people from the same academy? The fame of Orion, the giant hunter, was widespread throughout Greece, so most heroes accepted him as the expedition leader. His arrows were famous for never missing, having dominated numerous hunting competitions in Greece. However, many were displeased with the idea that anyone from the Thebes Hero Training Academy was automatically accepted. That dissatisfaction boiled over when Orion selected a small, scrawny man just because he was from the same academy. Hey Orion, why was I rejected but that skinny guy passed? A bald Spartan warrior with black tattoos spoke with a face full of displeasure to the giant blue-haired Orion. But Orion brushed it off casually. Well, it's because that man over there, Perieres, is stronger than you. What did you say? Maybe I could accept that from you. But that scrawny guy doesn't even look properly trained. At those words, the man called Perieres stepped forward and responded in a laid-back voice. Though, to be exact, it sounded like he was choking on something as he tried to continue speaking. Not properly trained, you say? Have you even fought a monster before? A sphinx? What kind of nonsense is this? Where are you from, and what do you do? Well, I graduated from the Hero Academy, and I was thinking about becoming king of Messenia. Then I decided to come here. This comment caused those around, who had gathered to join the expedition, to burst into laughter. Yet, for some reason, none of the graduates from the Thebes Academy laughed at him. Ha! King, you say? This guy is hilarious. He looks like he should be in a comedy troupe as a clown. Is it right for Orion to accept someone like him? Orion, maybe your method of selecting expedition members is flawed. As the crowd in Athens grumbled, Orion exchanged an awkward glance with Perieres. Perieres shrugged when he met Orion's gaze and shouted loudly. Then how about we settle this cleanly with Pancration? If I lose, I'll recommend you instead. A Pancration match? Fine. But don't blame me when you meet Thanatos. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Thus, what was supposed to be a recruitment event turned into an impromptu Pancration match. The spectators gathered in a circle around the two fighters and took their seats. Orion, holding a staff, acted as the referee, while the heroes prepared for battle. All right, as agreed by both fighters, this will be a Cato-Pancration match. So watch accordingly. In Cato-style Pancration, the fight continues even if a fighter is knocked to the ground. As soon as Orion finished speaking, the two men, now stripped down for the match, rushed at each other. The Spartan warrior attacked first, shouting as he swung his right fist, his powerful muscles surging with force. But the punch missed Perrier's, passing by his side. Then came Perrier's counterattack. Born to Aeolus, the god of the winds, the demigod Perrier's could even control part of the wind. His fists, wrapped in wind, struck like a storm, pounding the Spartan's solar plexus, chin, and head. G.U.H. The Spartan warrior, beaten repeatedly, stumbled backward. However, as a warrior, he fiercely kicked his foot toward his opponent. Yet, despite the force behind the attack, it again missed its mark. Perrier's dodged it easily, taunting his opponent with an infuriatingly smug expression. Tisk TSK. You can't just charge and recklessly like that. I can't trust someone like you to have my back in the expedition. Shut up, you bastard. Hiya. Blinded by rage after taking so many punches, the Spartan charged again, but something caught his foot, and the world turned upside down. Perrier's tripped him and then lifted him into the air, slamming him into the ground. Thud. The Spartan landed head first, and though he could have died from a concussion, he was still alive, as his chest faintly rose and fell. The foul-mouthed Spartan was carried away by others to a doctor, while Orion declared the victor. As you all saw, the winner is Perrier's. If anyone thinks I've made the wrong decision, come forward. I'll personally take you on. Ha! That huge guy was taken down in an instant. He knocked him out without taking a single hit. What kind of movement is that? What kind of training do they give at Thebes? Did he offer that Spartan's ankle to Zeus? Well, it didn't break, so I guess not. Though the Spartan looked strong with his muscular build, people quietly withdrew before the giant hunter Orion, who was twice his size. Once the complaints about Orion's decisions faded, about a few hundred people were chosen as members of the expedition. Some were heroes from Thebes, but there were quite a few others as well. Before setting out for Mount Athos, the expedition moved to a mountain some distance from the Kingdom of Macedonia to perform a special ritual, seeking the blessings of the gods for their journey. Dozens of game, including deer, leopards, and birds, caught by the heroes, were piled up on a wooden altar, while the armed heroes stood beneath it. Orion, the leader of the expedition, approached the altar with a torch and lit the fire, loudly proclaiming, "O gods of Olympus, watching from above the clouds, bless these brave warriors who seek to hunt down the monsters." Quor, as if the gods themselves responded to his cry, a sudden blue lightning bolt struck the altar from the clear sky. The brief but intense lightning vanished, and all the animals placed on the altar disappeared as well. Leo lightning? Does this mean Zeus himself is watching over us? Not just Athena, who sent the oracle, but all the gods of Olympus are paying attention to this expedition. I knew coming to Athens was the right choice. This expedition is definitely. The heroes, thinking this was a divine response, cheered. This was clearly a chance to make a name for themselves. There wasn't a single hero whose heart didn't race at the thought of the gods watching over their journey. Orion, too, raised his voice again and shouted, "I swear to hunt every beast and monster that walks this earth and offer them to the gods of Olympus." A boastful, nearly arrogant declaration from a demigod. Yet if anyone could say such a thing, it would be Orion, the greatest hunter in Greece. At least, until a voice resonated from the ground beneath them. "Hunt every beast and monster on this earth? Son of Poseidon, can you bear the weight of such a claim?" The sudden, soft voice startled the heroes. What is this voice? This pressure? It was undoubtedly from a god. But weren't the gods of Olympus blessing this journey? "Who are you?" Orion demanded of the mysterious goddess, while the heroes quickly drew their weapons. A brief silence followed, and then that majestic yet soft voice filled their ears. "I am Gaia, goddess of the earth. You will pay for daring to insult the earth." Gaia, the goddess of the earth? According to myth, she is Zeus' grandmother. A protogenoi? What is happening? Though their minds raced with these thoughts, they could think no further. The ground in the distance suddenly began to crack open. Rumble, crack, Like an earthquake, a massive fissure spread across the earth. The tremors shook the surroundings for a while, and the heroes couldn't hide their shock at the sudden disaster. But it was too soon to be merely surprised. From the gaping fissure, countless monsters, supposed to be at Mount Athos, began crawling up to the surface. Growling, bark, sshhh. That, the golden sword of Chrysor. How can this be? The monster born from Medusa's severed neck is here? Oh no! That two-headed dog with a serpent's tail. That's Orthrus. Typhon's child is here too. Send a request for reinforcements immediately. We need more backup. Damn it all! Zeus, help us! Chrysor, wielder of the golden sword. A monstrous creature in the form of a giant serpent, controlling a floating golden sword in midair. Born alongside Pegasus when Medusa was beheaded by Perseus, Chrysor has a far stronger monstrous nature than Pegasus. By the time Medusa sought him out, he had long disappeared. Orthrus, a massive, two-headed dog monster with a serpent-headed tail. The eldest of Typhon and Echidna's children, Orthrus is the sibling of Cerberus, guardian of the underworld, and Chimera, who was slain by Bellerophon. Though the two demigod-level monsters stood out the most, the other monsters following them were equally formidable. There were harpies, creatures with the heads of women and bodies of large raptors, moving trees, man-eating deer, giant lizards, and more. The ones hiding in the mountains are swarming in. Focus on taking down the ones in the sky first. Don't back down. This is a war with monsters, and the gods are watching. The messenger who went to request reinforcements from Macedonia will take some time to return. We need to hold out until then. I dedicate my fight to the god of war, Ares. Grrrr, roar, sshhhh dash. As the monsters kept coming, the heroes quickly assumed battle stances and engaged them. Soon, javelins and arrows filled the air, and the monsters, eager to devour humans, rushed forward. As the two opposing forces, each filled with bloodlust, collided, the battlefield became a chaotic blend of human screams and monstrous howls. The sound of spears and swords clashing with monstrous claws created a twisted harmony, opening the brutal scene of battle. Even in this chaos, several heroes stood out. One of them was Orion, the leader of the expedition. Thwack, thud. Another arrow from his bow pierced through the throat of a monster. The son of the sea god, famed as the greatest hunter in Greece, targeted only the monsters, even in the midst of the chaotic melee. Once again, Orion's powerful arms drew back his bowstring, aiming at his next target, the child of Typhon, who was ravenously devouring humans with its two heads. Thud! Grr! Orion's arrow, famed for its deadly accuracy, pierced the monster's leg. Noticing Orion for the first time, Orthrus dropped the human it was holding in its mouth and charged at him. You wretched beast! Orion, it's coming your way. Watch out! The nearby heroes tried to stop the charging monster, but their attacks only left scratches on its tough hide. They couldn't stop it. Its skin, while not as impervious as the Nemean lion's, was still thick enough that ordinary heroes' attacks didn't even leave a mark. Grrrr! Its hide is too thick. It may not be the Nemean lion, but damn it, Orion, I don't think. I know. Get back. All of you. I'll be the one to kill that thing. Thanks to Orion's immense strength as the son of a sea god, he had been able to pierce the monster's leg. Realizing this quickly, Orion tossed his bow aside and drew the massive club and shield he had been carrying on his back. In the midst of the battlefield, where heroes and monsters clashed, on the other side, Chrysor, with his venomous fangs and flying sword, fiercely pressed the heroes while the horrifying screams of humans being torn apart by the ferocious, man-eating deer echoed across the field. Orion, charging through the center of the battlefield, locked eyes with the monster charging at him and gripped his club tightly. Grrrr! If you're Typhon's offspring, you're a fitting trophy for my legendary hunt. The fierce clash between Orthrus, baring its fangs as it leaped forward, and Orion, swinging his club, began. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. At the palace of Olympus, Apollo stood with his arms crossed, looking down. Though Zeus, his father, had accepted the offerings from the heroes as they entered Mount Athos. Apollo, you should watch over them and lend them aid when appropriate. I understand, father. But what do you mean by when appropriate? Exactly what I said. Gaia, who is wary of the heroes' achievements, will not let the expedition reach Mount Athos unscathed. So, you may intervene as you see fit to a reasonable extent. Zeus had ordered Apollo to watch over the expedition and help them as needed. It was a precautionary measure, in case something went wrong and Heracles, the newly born hero, couldn't fulfill his destiny or was killed by Hera. The more heroes the gods could nurture, the greater the chances that one of them would become a great hero to lead in the war against the giants. Reflecting on his conversation with Zeus, Apollo looked down through the clouds when someone quietly sat beside him. It was his sister, the moon goddess Artemis. Brother, what brings you here? Sister, shouldn't we help the heroes, seeing that they are struggling down there? But overcoming challenges like this is part of what makes them great heroes, right? We can't rely solely on Father's precious Heracles, can we? But the beautiful goddess gazed down at the lower realm with a worried expression. Noticing the love, concern, and anxiety in her eyes, Apollo sighed. His sister, Artemis, was a virgin goddess sworn to purity. However, at some point Apollo had noticed her growing close to a certain mortal. That hero bravely fighting Orthrus. Couldn't we at least save him? The only human Artemis had ever shown any closeness to, aside from family. No, technically he was a demigod. After all, the father of that giant hunter was Poseidon. It was only natural that Artemis, the goddess of hunting and archery, would grow close to Greece's greatest hunter. But how dare a mere human seek the favor of the virgin goddess, sworn to the river Styx? How could he even think of it? With me, Apollo, watching so closely, I don't particularly like him. Huh? What did you say, brother? Nothing. If that's your wish, I'll send a raven to help the humans. As the son of their doting uncle, Poseidon, Apollo couldn't directly punish him with divine wrath. But what if an unfortunate accident were to occur while fighting the monsters? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Near the kingdom of Macedonia, the battlefield had long been stained with blood. The tide of battle between the heroes gathered from all over Greece, and the mythological monsters was gradually turning in the monsters' favor. Although the monsters attacked the humans first, the heroes were confident in their skills. Those who had trained in the underworld through Thebes and honed their abilities by hunting monsters in this world were no pushovers. However, damn it, someone do something about that flying sword. Ugh! Huff! Is there no one else left with the blood of the wind god? Swish! Chrysaor, with his thick scales that deflected the hero's weapons, his sharp fangs, and his massive body that was itself a threat, was a problem. He could also freely control the golden sword that flew through the air. Gogs! Another scream echoed out as an arrow pierced the abdomen of a hero who had introduced himself as the son of Notus, the god of the south wind. While Orion was dealing with Orthrus, who would take down that terrifying monster. If it hadn't been for the heroes from Thebes, who seemed accustomed to fighting giant serpents and had managed to distract him, they all might have been killed by now. Despite the ongoing battle, Chrysaor remained unscathed, while the morale of the expedition members gradually waned. Then something flew above their heads. Caw! Caw! What is that sound? That shadow in the sky? A harpy? Even in the midst of fighting monsters, the humans glanced up at the sky at the strange, powerful cry of a bird and breathed a sigh of relief. The unique cry, the large black body, and the sacred aura that resonated through all their bodies. It's the divine crow said to be raised by Apollo. Is it the same crow that was burned for delivering news about the princess Caronis of Thessaly? The god of the sun watches over us. Oh, radiant Phoebus Apollo! Apollo, who had once been in a relationship with the Thessalian princess Caronis, had sent a white crow as a messenger to deliver news to her. However, Caronis cheated on him with a mortal named Ischys, and the crow immediately reported this to Apollo. Enraged, Apollo shot Carinus dead with his bow. But he regretted it immediately and turned his gaze upon the crow. Under the scorching gaze filled with the sun's power, the white crow's feathers were all burned black. Thus, the divine beast, Apollo's black crow, appeared here on this battlefield. The divine crow soared through the sky of the battlefield for a moment before diving straight toward Chrysor. What looked like a mirror in the sky grew larger and larger as it descended to the ground. Soon, the divine beast, now enormous as if several people had been combined into one, swooped down and slashed Chrysor's back with its talons. Sheik, the serpent monster, writhed in agony as a fountain of blood spurted from its back. Seeing this, the heroes regained their fighting spirit and rushed at Chrysor once more. The flying golden sword was now preoccupied with fending off the crow from the heavens, and Orthrus was being held back by the expedition leader, Orion. If the two demigod-level monsters could be taken out of the fight, victory would be within reach. The Rema-inning monsters were no match for those who had trained in Thebes, battling the Sphinx, Python, and other legendary beasts. That's it. We can win. We've survived the training grounds of Thebes. These creatures are nothing compared to that. O god Ares, grant strength to my sword. Let's finish them all quickly and help Orion. Unless another unexpected twist occurred, the expedition seemed likely to end in the hero's victory.